Chapter 195. In the next few days, Feng Qi began to prepare for the new student competition. He was very confident about this competition, because this class had Lu Yu. Just him alone was enough to rival an elite class. In addition, with the help of the three Xia brothers and Yin Yu, who were from the domain battle group, he was confident that he could win first place in the new student competition. In this new student competition, he also planned to take a look at the situation of the other academies. He would pay attention to the newcomers with potential. Perhaps he could rope them in the future timeline and recruit them into the Breaking Dawn organization. There were still 5 days until the new student competition. When he woke up early in the morning, he received a call from Vivian. After he picked up the call, Vivian's voice came from the other end of the phone. "Are you still sleeping? How can you sleep at your age? Sister Wei, stop fooling around. What's the matter?" Feng Qi sat up and said helplessly, "In the past few days, we have received the first version of the future virtual engine sent by Feng Zhio and have been testing it. During this time, Li Xingqian from the Future Research Institute helped us adjust and slightly modify the game code you left behind. Now it can be compatible with the virtual engine." Hearing this, he was immediately energized. "How's the game running?" "There are many imperfections, but it can already be operated preliminarily. The core confrontation mode can also be operated with difficulty, but there are still some imperfections that need to be improved. For example, the configuration of the game capsule needs to be upgraded. This aspect has been handed over to Li Xingqian. He said that in half a month's time, he can come up with a higher configuration version of the game capsule to be compatible with this super virtual game." At this point, Vivian paused for a moment before continuing. "During the testing phase, we also found a troublesome problem. The super virtual game code you received has many spells and skills that have not yet appeared in this stage." Hearing this, Feng Qi was stunned. Just as Wei Wei had said, he had forgotten one thing. In the game code copied from the future, there were many spells and skills that did not exist in this era. Some of these spells were developed decades later, while others were developed hundreds of years later. If they were to release all of these spells at once, they would be able to create a huge commotion. Once the players were able to cast this spell in the game, it would definitely cause a sensation if they found out that this non-existent spell could be easily used in real life. At that time, it would also attract the attention of various forces. This was a very risky move before all the domain forces lurking in the human civilization were removed. Thinking of this, he immediately asked, "Sister Wei, is it troublesome to modify the game code?" In response to the question, Vivian laughed. "It's no trouble at all. Right now, we're connecting to the martial arts database and deleting the codes of the techniques that don't exist in this era. With Li Xingqian's help, it should be done in half a day." That's good. He thought it would be troublesome to delete the code, but he was relieved. One more thing. Yesterday, 35 virtual gaming pods were flown from the Future Research Institute to Scarlet Base. "Aren't you busy with the new student competition? Do you want to bring a few over to play?" Feng Qi couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. "Can I? Why not? The more players there are, the more feedback data can be collected during the testing period. You said that your students are very trustworthy, so you can let them test it for fun." "Okay, how many can you give me?" "I can give you 15. We'll keep 20. The higher-end version of the gaming pods should be produced soon. These old versions will be eliminated." "No need for 15. Just give me 13. "No problem. Sister Wei, thank you." "You're welcome." After hanging up, Feng Qi began to look forward to the gaming pods that would be delivered in the afternoon. Before that, he decided to go to the principal's office. It wasn't a small matter to transport so many large machines into the academy. Under normal circumstances, if a machine was to be sent to Star City University, it would need to go through a series of inspections. Thinking of this, he immediately got up and went to the bathroom to wash up. After 5 minutes, he changed into a new set of clothes and hurried to Shuefu restaurant. After breakfast, he went straight to Bai Fuxing's office. A moment later, he arrived at Bai Fuxing's office and knocked on the door. "Come in." Pushing the door open, Bai Fuxing was in the room, wearing a tang suit and flipping through a thick book. Seeing that it was Feng Qi who came in, Bai Fuxing smiled and joked, "What problem are you giving me again?" "Grandmaster, I really have something to trouble you with." "Can I refuse? Can't you focus on your research?" Don't think about this and that all day long. Bai Fuxing was annoyed. Grandmaster, do you still remember our previous agreement? Feng Qi walked to the desk, picked up the teapot, poured a cup of tea, and handed it to Bai Fuxing with a smile. After taking the teacup, Bai Fuxing asked curiously, "What agreement? Didn't we agree that if there were results in virtual technology within 3 months, you would promise to support my research and development?" "Yes, there is such a thing." "You mean there are results now?" Bai Fuxing put down the teacup and asked in surprise. "That's right, and a virtual game has been initially created." Hearing this, Bai Fuxing's face was filled with shock. Back then, he listened to Feng Qi's detailed analysis of the future of the super virtual game and felt that creating a super virtual game could significantly improve the development of human civilization. However, the amount of work required to create a super virtual game was enormous. Although he didn't know much about this, he felt that even if it was given to a professional team, it would take several years of research and development. However, it had only been a little over a month, and Feng Qi said that the initial creation of the virtual game had been completed. "You mean there are results in the initial research and development, right?" "No, the initial creation is completed." When Bai Fuxing saw the smile on Feng Qi's face, he opened his mouth and suddenly didn't know what to say. Since Feng Qi dared to say these words, he clearly had a card up his sleeve. "So you came to me because you need research and development funds?" "I already solved the research and development funding problem. Didn't I ask you to go out a while ago?" "I went to the Scarlet Institute a few days ago and reached a cooperation agreement with the Scarlet Institute." When Bai Fuxing heard this, he sighed in relief. When he heard that the Scarlet Institute was supporting him, he suddenly felt that the creation of the super virtual game was mainly due to the Scarlet Institute. It was understandable that they could develop the game in such a short time. "Then why are you looking for me this time?" Bai Fuxing took a sip of the teacup on the table and smiled. "The Scarlet Institute will send 13 test game capsules to the school in the afternoon. I want to find a place to store them in the school. I need your approval to transport the 13 game capsules to the school." After understanding the situation, Bai Fuxing immediately nodded and said, "That's easy. I'll allocate an area in the gymnasium for you to store the game capsules. As for the approval, I'll get it done for you." As he spoke, Bai Fuxing took out his phone and dialed the number of the security room. When the call connected, Bai Fuxing explained that the equipment would be delivered in the afternoon. Then, he opened the drawer and gave Lu Zhou an approval slip. He told Lu Zhou to give the approval slip to the security guards. After doing all this, Bai Fuxing closed the drawer and looked at Lu Zhou. "After the machines are delivered in the afternoon, do you need me to arrange for the school staff to help you install them?" "No need. I don't need to trouble you with such a small matter," Feng Qi responded with a smile. "When the virtual game improvements are officially completed, you have to be the first to install them at Star City University." Lu Zhou looked at the smiling Bai Fuxing and immediately nodded. Of course, Star City University will be the first test site. Also, when the virtual game is officially released in the future, Star City University will get 5% of the profits. "You're really planning to give me a share of the profits of Star City University?" Bai Fuxing was surprised. "This is what I promised you. Of course, I'll get a share. Also, without your support, the virtual game development wouldn't have gone so smoothly, including the persuasion of Feng Zhiyou's parents." When Bai Fuxing heard this, he immediately beamed with joy. After chatting for a while, Feng Qi said goodbye to Bai Fuxing and left the principal's office. He then returned to his dorm. In the morning, he began to read information related to Combat Command. At noon, after he finished his lunch, he sent a notice to the class group to gather in front of the dorm building. After receiving everyone's replies, he brought Mu Qing and Lin Ran to the dorm building and waited. 10 minutes later, Lu Yu, who was carrying Sword Billow, was the first to arrive. "Lu Yu, can you not always put on a straight face? Will it kill you to smile?" Lin Ran stepped forward and hooked his arm around Lu Yu's neck as he giggled. Faced with Lin Ran's seduction, Lu Yu immediately turned his head and acted like he didn't want to talk to him. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Feng Qi's face. In the memories of the future, he and Lu Yu could definitely be called life and death brothers. In countless life and death situations, it was Lu Yu who risked his life to save him. If it wasn't for Lu Yu, he would have died countless times already. Therefore, he clearly knew that Lu Yu only looked cold on the surface, but he was actually a very loyal person. That's right. Lu Yu isn't just the sharpest sword in your hand. He's also your #1 burial object. Hearing the narration, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. However, it seemed to be true. In every future timeline that established Breaking Dawn, Lu Yu would always die with him. While waiting, Xiaolong and the others arrived one after another. Then, he led the group of students to the school gate. After half an hour, they arrived at the gate of Star City University. At this time, there were already a number of cars waiting outside the gate. Although Bai Fuxing had told them in advance, they didn't have the approval slip, so they couldn't confirm that this batch of equipment was the batch that passed the approval. Therefore, the cars transporting the game capsules were stopped outside. When they arrived in front of the guard on duty, he handed over the approval slip. "Uncle, this batch of equipment is the batch that Principal Bai told us about this morning." The guard took the approval slip, then took out the equipment and scanned it. He immediately nodded and pressed the switch hanging on his chest. The specially made metal railings at the school gate slowly rose. 5 trucks carrying the game capsules slowly drove into the school. After explaining the situation to the leader of the transport team, Feng Qi and the students got on the truck. After a while, the truck stopped outside the gymnasium. Then, Feng Qi led the group of students to unload the capsules. The game capsules were very heavy, at least a ton. At this time, Mu Qing became the main force in unloading the capsules. It was very easy for her to lift 1 capsule with each hand. It took them about half an hour to transport the 13 game capsules to the empty room 1019 in the gymnasium. Next was the installation process. The main body of the game capsules had been installed, but they still needed to connect the power supply, external nutrition tanks, and other work. According to the instructions left by the Scarlet Institute, they spent a lot of effort to complete the installation of the virtual game capsules. Other than Mu Qing and Lu Yu, everyone was sweating profusely. "Brother Qi, what's the use of these game capsules? Are they really used to play games?" "Of course. I'm not interested in games at all. You guys go ahead." Hearing this, Feng Qi's gaze swept across the crowd. Like Lin Ran, everyone seemed to be uninterested in games. Looking at everyone's puzzled expression, he clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. Then he smiled and said, "I know that you're not interested in games, but the games in these game capsules are not as simple as you think. Next, change into your specially made game suits and prepare to enter the game capsules." Hearing this, everyone was even more puzzled. Next, everyone began to change into their specially made game suits. This game suit was similar to the Scarlet Institute's conditioning suit. It was used to help the body absorb nutrients when soaking in a nutrient solution. Otherwise, it was obviously inappropriate to enter the game capsules in these clothes. There was a separate room in room 1019. Men and women could change in different rooms. A moment later, everyone gathered in front of the game capsules after changing. Next, Feng Qi took out the manual and taught everyone how to activate the game capsules and how to operate them. Then, everyone walked into the game capsules. At this time, Feng Qi also walked towards the game chamber 01. The game capsule looked like an oversized egg. It was dark blue in color and had a metallic texture to it. When he arrived in front of the game capsule, he pressed the start button and the capsule slowly opened. He walked in and laid down flat on the ground. Following the steps, he connected the flexible tube in the game capsule to his body. Then, the game capsule slowly lowered. Then, light blue nutrient solution sprayed out from all the holes and quickly enveloped him. He could only breathe through the respirator in his mouth. At this moment, a green light appeared above his head and scanned his body back and forth. Then, he felt a strong sense of dizziness and his vision jumped. Perhaps the initial animation modeling was not completed yet. When he entered the game, all he saw was darkness. While waiting, 2 golden words appeared in front of his eyes. Breaking Dawn. Then, an electronic voice sounded in his mind. "Welcome to the Breaking Dawn game. Checking and calibrating your body's data. Please wait a moment." About 5 minutes later, the electronic voice sounded again. "Scanning complete. Verifying your real name. Verification complete. Please name your character in the Breaking Dawn game. After thinking for a moment, he typed longevity on the screen keyboard that appeared in front of him. Naming complete. Your player name in the Breaking Dawn game is longevity. Confirm? You won't be able to change it after confirming? Bah, is that all you want? I think you should name it Muscle Overbearing Man. Don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, I'll change it to Narrator's Dad. I like longevity. I think it's pretty good. Chapter 196. After naming it, the screen went black again. A row of indicator lights on the virtual gaming chamber kept flashing and the machine hummed at high speed. Feng Qi, who had completed the connection, did not hear anything outside. About 2 minutes later, a virtual option panel popped up in front of him. Team versus mode, matching ranking system. Team versus mode, custom room. Territory dungeon mode, personal mode, team mode, not available yet. Self-created dungeon mode, paid download local gallery. 0, not available yet. Self-created dungeon map editor, 23,215 map materials available, not available yet. Simulation training room, skill release training, skill combination training, personal space, add friend, battle record query, personal honor wall, match replay, friend contact, change. Clothes and accessories. Clothes testing scenario 1, not available yet. Inner scenario 2, not available yet. Breaking Dawn was still in the testing stage, and the content it could provide was very limited. At the same time, Feng Qi also noticed something. Due to the configuration problem of the virtual gaming chamber, the loading lag of the game was very obvious. Every time he changed the content, he had to wait, and the screen would be black for a while. These were obviously problems that needed to be solved later. Without hesitation, he clicked on the personal space option. After more than 10 seconds of black screen waiting, he found himself in a room wearing a gray linen shirt. The room was about 200 square meters. Other than the honor wall, there were no other facilities. He stood in front of the Add Friend wall and reached out to click on the plus sign on the wall. Then, he clicked to search for nearby players. Soon, Lin Ran and the others' original avatars and names appeared on the search radar. Lin Ran, game name. Godly Level Technique. Mu Qing, game name. Hiss, Lu Yu, game name. Sword, Xia Long, game name. Howling Dragon, Xia Hu, game name. Howling Tiger, Xia Bao, game name. Meow Leopard. Yin Yu, Mountain Picking Strength, Jia Yi, half a point better than the sky. Yang Xiaoxin, Army God, Be Careful. Kaigua, old military doctor who has saved lives and helped the wounded. Su Hongyun, Poverty makes me strong. Hui Su, Kill my mother. Every player's personal information was connected to the Scarlet database. They had to authenticate their real names before they could log in. Therefore, everyone's real name was displayed on the radar. However, players could also hide their real names in the settings. They could choose to show their real names to their friends or hide them completely. He could also shield himself from detection, preventing nearby players from finding him. He added Lin Ran and the others one by one and approved the application. He opened his friends list again and invited them one by one to his personal space. A moment later, Lu Yu and the others appeared in his room. Looking at the shocked crowd, Feng Qi grinned and said, "How do you feel? Brother Qi, what's going on with this game?" Lin Ran asked in surprise. "Some time ago, I brought Feng Zhio to Star City University to develop this game. Now, with the help of the Scarlet Institute, the game has been completed." "That's way too fast. I thought you were only developing a virtual reality game for fun. Who would have thought that you actually made it?" "This is ridiculous." Lin Ran couldn't help but complain. "It's all thanks to the help of the Scarlet Institute. Otherwise, no matter how capable I am, I wouldn't have been able to create a game like this." He immediately blamed the Scarlet Institute for his success. "Brother Qi, how do we play this game?" "Hurry up and tell me," Su Hongyun said excitedly. "The gameplay is actually very simple. Players need to match their skills. Let's go to the simulation training room first. Wait here for a moment." After saying that, Feng Qi exited his personal space and went to the list of options. He then clicked on the simulation training room, and 2 options popped up in front of him. Combat Skill Training Room. Skill, Spell, Training Room. He clicked on the Skill Training Room option and waited for more than 10 seconds. A moment later, he appeared in an environment similar to the Roman Colosseum. In front of him was a wooden dummy to test the power of one's skills. On his left was a minefield to test the range of his skills. On his right was a 10-ring target to test the accuracy of his skills. He then called out his friends' list and clicked on invite one by one. After waiting for a moment, Lin ran and the others appeared in the testing room. "Where's this?" the young monk asked curiously. "Pay attention to the upper right corner of your eyes. There is an icon of your profile picture. Focus your attention and it will appear. Give it a try." Hearing this, everyone began to try it out. Soon, a column of square icons appeared in front of everyone. At the top was a search bar, and at the bottom were 6 spaces with a plus sign. "Now, reach out and touch the icon." Hearing this, everyone raised their hands and pressed on the icon. At this time, Fengqi also pressed the icon of 3 fireballs in the skill library. Instantly, a skill information column appeared in front of him. Fireball chain. Condense your mental strength and consecutively draw the trajectory of 3 fireballs in an extremely short period of time. After the fireballs are formed, carry out continuous attacks on the target with a burning effect. Skill strength, 2 stars, casting speed, 4 stars, coverage, 1 star. Release consumption, 15 spirit energy. Release difficulty, 2 stars. After closing the skill introduction page, he looked at Lin Ran and the others, had a shocked expression, and said, "These skills are all created by these skills. These skills are all created by collecting the tracks of spells in the real world. You can search for spells that you're familiar with in the search bar at the top, and the 6 slots at the bottom are spells that you can equip. Just drag the icon to put the skill into the equipment bar." Hearing that these skills were all collected from real skills, everyone was dumbfounded. Originally, they thought that this was just a game with a high degree of realism. However, after hearing this, they quickly realized the meaning behind this game. Simulated reality skills and a combat mode. Brother Chi, are you trying to use a virtual combat game to solve the lack of combat training in the real world? In the face of Lin Ran's question, Fengqi immediately nodded. As expected of you, you immediately thought of the core of this game. F***CK, Brother Chi, how did you do it? How did you collect so many skills in a data? Although I don't know anything about programming, I know that this is an extremely large amount of work. I already said that this game is supported by the Scarlet Institute. They helped me get it done. After answering Lin Ran's question, he looked at everyone and continued. Let's try out the skills first. Next, everyone, try to familiarize yourself with your skill combinations. Actually, the game doesn't force you to only use 6 skills in each ranking match. The 6 skill slots are mainly set up for newbies. To be more specific, you drag the skills into the skill equipment bar. When you release them, you will have the ability to draw the trajectory of the skills. This is also a kind of training for your control over the skills. However, you still have to throw the skills yourself. In normal games, players are only allowed to equip 6 skills that can be used to assist them. As for the other skills that you have already mastered, you can use them at will in the ranking match. Therefore, this game has a ranking system that allows players of the same level to compete against each other. After listening to his explanation, everyone quickly understood the core gameplay of this game. Then, they began to understand the skills. After that, they dragged the skills that they hadn't mastered in real life into the skill equipment bar and began to train. At this time, Fengqi also dragged a skill with the icon of an iceberg into the equipment bar. During the process of releasing the skill, he only had to silently recite the name of the skill. Freezing spell. After reciting the name, he could clearly feel the consumption of his mental energy. The trajectory of the skill automatically drew in the spiritual energy from the outside world. This feeling was as if a hand was grabbing him and writing stroke by stroke. It was a wonderful feeling. During the process, he only had to cooperate with the feeling. Soon, the trajectory of the skill was completed. The spiritual energy from the outside world was drawn into a cloud of light blue mist and flew toward the scarecrow that he had locked onto. When the scarecrow came into contact with a light blue mist, it was instantly covered in a layer of frost. After about 10 seconds, the frost dissipated. A virtual projection popped up on top of the testing Scarecrow's head. Scarecrow feedback results. Testing skill. Chain fireball. Skill power. 49 points. Rating. Low. Skills self-completion rate. 3%. Rating. Extremely low. Skill control effect. Weak. Skill flying speed. Slow. Seeing the test results, Feng Chi's anticipation for Breaking Dawn increased again. In the simulated training space, the player's practice of skills could directly affect the proficiency of the skills in reality. This was because the trajectory of the skills here was completely simulated in reality. If the skills in the equipment bar were proficient in the game, they could completely copy the trajectory of the skill and release it in reality. Moreover, the auxiliary release function in the game was equivalent to the protagonist's cheat in novels. Every release was an opportunity to learn. After a long period of learning, they could even instinctively release certain skills like a conditioned reflex. Rather than a game, it was more like a spell learning tool. At the same time, Breaking Dawn had a ranking mechanism that could increase the player's interest in learning spells. If they wanted to increase their score, they had to work hard and study hard. It was simply impossible to spend money to increase their score. As for helping others to level up, it was completely impossible in this game. All players had to register with their real names. After the data was collected, it would be entered into the Scarlet database. There was no way for other players to level up. As for other possible loopholes, such as helping others to level up, ranking actors, and so on, he had thought of all these when he discussed with the Scarlet Institute's senior management that day. In the future, Breaking Dawn would set up a department that specialized in reviewing players' reports and feedback. They would punish all violations of the normal game content. This would also be the core direction to purify the game environment in the future. Every player only had one real name authentication account. If they made a mistake, they would be suspended from the competition. If it was serious, they would even be permanently banned. The players could clearly distinguish the importance of this. After all, they only had one account. They couldn't obtain a new account through any other channels. The concept of Breaking Dawn was to promote the development of human civilization and increase the overall strength of mankind. From a historical point of view, this game attracted more people to become cultivators after it became completely popular. After testing a few spells and feeling the effects of the auxiliary release function, he turned to look at the people who were still trying to release different spells. At this moment, Lin Ran walked to his side and said in surprise, "Brother Chi, I tried to release spells using the sealing style just now. I can actually release them. How did you do it?" Faced with the question, Feng Chi explained with a smile, "The game environment is completely simulated. The environment in the game is a simulation of the real world. All the spells you can use in the real world can be used in Breaking Dawn. Does that mean that as long as I know the spells that don't exist in the skill library, I can also release this brand new spell by tracing the spell's trajectory?" "That's right. That's it." Hearing his explanation, Lin Ren couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. He could imagine how big of an uproar this game would cause after it was officially released. The value of this game was even more immeasurable. "Brother Chi, I think your outstanding contribution gold medal will be in your account soon. You'll be the brightest star in this era. You might even be a great historical figure in the future." "Perhaps." Faced with Lin Ran's praise, Feng Chi grinned. "Whether you're a great historical figure or a great historical sinner depends on your choice in each timeline. After all, you become both. Perhaps in the next timeline where you follow Mu Qing to establish Lamin Can, you'll become an unknown subordinate of the great historical demon king." Feng Chi was speechless. Ignoring the voiceover sarcasm, he looked at Lin Ran and said, "You tested a few spells just now. Did you find any problems that need improvement?" Faced with the question, Lin Ran immediately nodded and said, "A simulated environment is, after all, just a simulation. There are still some differences between casting spells in the real world and casting spells in the real world. But overall, there's nothing wrong with it. Training spells here can indeed help cultivators cast spells in the real world and even improve their proficiency with it. Do you have any suggestions for improvement?" "No, this game is already perfect in my opinion. It's just that the loading lag in a new environment is very obvious. This aspect needs improvement as it affects the game experience. Now, I'm looking forward to the domain instance mode and self-created instance mode that will be released in the future. By the way, Brother Chi, don't you have insider information? Tell me in detail what's going on with the subsequent instance mode. Faced with the question, he didn't hide anything and briefly explained the direction of the subsequent instance mode. After listening to Feng Chi's idea, Lin Ran opened his mouth. That's crazy. If your idea is successful, then in the future, when a domain battle group wants to challenge a domain in the real world, they only need to conduct simulation training in the game. Then, they will know whether their battle group can do it or not. Hearing this, Feng Chi shook his head decisively and said, "Don't expect too much. Don't have too much hope. There are still differences between reality and the game. The simulated domain instance dungeon can only let the domain battle squad know the probability of them conquering the target domain field, as well as the possible casualties. The simulated results don't completely represent the actual results. If we really use the simulation results to conquer the domain fields in the real world, we will have to pay a price. When the domain field function is released in the future, we will emphasize on this point and publicize it. It's already very good. At the very least, it can effectively reduce unnecessary casualties." After chatting with Lin Ran about the future development of Breaking Dawn, he looked at the people who were still happily switching spells for training. Next, he planned to bring the group of students to an actual combat competition. There were still 5 days before the new student competition. It was time for the final sprint training. Chapter 197. After the skill test ended, Feng Chi pulled all the students into a custom room. When everyone entered the custom room, he opened the settings bar and the relevant menu appeared. He first set the number of players to 6v6, then dragged his avatar to the spectator area to participate as a spectator. Next was the setting of the confrontation mode. He adjusted everyone's body values to the same initial value to ensure that there would not be a situation of overwhelming strength. When he adjusted Mu Qing's body values, he found that Mu Qing's body values could not be read. There was a question mark behind it. There was also a question mark behind the monk's body values. If Mu Qing's body values could not be read by the detection device in the game capsule, then the monk's body values were obviously hidden by some special means. However, this did not affect his adjustment of the values. After adjusting everyone's body values to the same level, he clicked on the confrontation map option. Suddenly, the relevant map appeared. Cloud Peak Mountains, complicated terrain. Twisted Forest, complicated terrain. Giant Dragon Plain, simple terrain. Lava Fire, balanced. There were more than 10 maps in the list of options. This was only a portion of the maps that were temporarily available. He had studied the Super Virtual Games in the Future database in detail. The game's research and development team, which had alternated generations, had developed nearly 1,000 simple and complicated confrontation maps in order to give the cultivators better training results. After all, after this game was developed, its nature was no longer as simple as a game. For traditional MOBA games, a single map was helpful for players to familiarize themselves with the environment. However, the follow-up definition of this game could be described as an arsenal, which was specially used to train soldiers. Naturally, the complicated terrain was more important. After all, the battlefield was not a game. How could there be an identical environment to adapt to? Only by having a variety of maps could one train the ability to adapt to any environment. His gaze swept across the map scene in the list of options and finally chose the random map mode. Finally, it was the personnel arrangement. He pulled Mu Qing, Kaigua, the 3 Xiao brothers, and Su Hongyan into the blue team. Lu Yu, Lin Ran, Yin Yu, Yang Xiaoxin, the monk, and Jia Yi into the red team. After the allocation, he clicked on the Enter Match button. Suddenly, a bugle horn sounded in their ears. After a brief black screen, the screen switched to the scene of the skill selection. On the left was Mu Qing's group of 6, and on the right was Lin Ran's group of 6. Between them was a large screen on the ground, and on it was a list of skill icons. The electronically synthesized voice then sounded. Skill Prohibition. Each player can prohibit 3 skills from appearing in this match. Hearing the game notification, everyone began to move. They were too lazy to use the skill search bar. They simply grabbed the screen and threw the selected skill into the skill prohibition box at the side. After the skill prohibition segment ended, it was time for the skill selection segment. Each player could equip 8 skills, and the selection time was 10 minutes. Once everyone had finished selecting, they could enter the game in advance. Now that they knew how to equip their skills, everyone began to act. Feng Qi clicked on the spectator list and immediately saw the selection of players from both sides. The more unique ones were Mu Qing and Kaigua. Mu Qing's skills were all self-enhancing skills. She had completely thought of the path of a tank and a warrior. Kaigua's skills were all skills that could enhance his teammates. Just like his in-game name, old military doctor who saves the dying and heals the wounded. After everyone had selected their skills, the screen jumped to the weapon selection interface. All kinds of cold weapons could be found here, except for Lin Ran and Yang Xiaoxin, who did not choose a weapon. Everyone else chose a suitable weapon. After the weapon selection segment ended, a countdown appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Then the screen entered a long period of waiting with a black screen. 10 minutes later, the line of sight suddenly became clear. Feng Qi found himself high in the sky. On both sides were Mu Qing, Lin Ran, and the others. They were also suspended high above the clouds. With a strong sense of weightlessness, his line of sight penetrated the thick clouds, and what appeared in front of him was a lush forest. The words "twisted forest" appeared in front of his eyes and quickly faded away. When his body was about to touch the ground, the screen jumped again. 2 pillars of light rose from the ends of the forest on both sides. The red and blue players entered their own camp base. Feng Qi, who was watching the game, found himself suspended in the air. A miniature version of a translucent map appeared in front of him. After trying to click, he found that he could jump to any location on the map at any time. Because he was watching the game, only he could see it now. He could also call out the record panel of all players at any time to check it. The way the 2 players fought was also very simple. There were 3 ways to determine the winner. In the center of the Twisted Forest map, there was a spirit mine. Spirit ores could be mined from it. Players could bring 2 spirit ores back to the base each time they mined. Whichever side mined the total number of spirit ores X 10 times the total number of participants would be judged the winner. During this period, if the players who carried the spirit ores were killed, the ores mined would be dropped. In addition, the ores in the base would also be stolen. The stolen ores would increase by 1 to 3. This way of winning required a high degree of teamwork. Defense, offense, mining, a reasonable combination to achieve the final victory. This time it was a custom room. There were only 12 players. If it was a match with a large number of players, the teamwork between the 2 teams would be tested. The second way was simpler and more brutal. Based on the number of kills, whichever team killed more than the total number of participants X 5 times the total number of participants would be judged the winner. During this period, to ensure fairness, after a player was killed, the resurrection time would be extended. The resurrection limit was 10 times. The last way of winning was the traditional MOBA game, commonly known as stealing from home. There was a flag in each camp base. The health of this flag was the number of participants X 1,000 times. As long as one could successfully destroy the enemy camp's base flag, they would be considered the winner. These 3 ways were set up to train the territory warriors. The first way was more traditional. It was similar to the territory warriors exploring the territory field. They would also mine all kinds of resources from the inside. Therefore, it was set to the number of resources as the winning condition. During this period, there was also a confrontation of strategy and layout. The second way of killing was to train the warrior's combat ability. It was a confrontation method that players generally chose in the game. They only needed to pay attention to their own team's cooperation to win. As for the third way of fighting, it seemed to be a trick to win, but it was actually the most important way of fighting. Not only did Feng Qi think so, but even the Scarlet Institute's higher-ups thought so. In reality, the key to dispelling the territory field was not to kill all the territory monsters in the territory field, but to destroy the space core of the territory field. After the space core was destroyed, the territory field would slowly dissipate. This was the key factor for the territory warriors to get rid of the territory field. From a practical point of view, stealing from home was to directly destroy the space core of the territory field. It was also the most difficult way to win in the game. If one wanted to directly steal from home, the enemy camp players would definitely choose to defend themselves. If a battle broke out in the enemy's base, it would quickly become a situation where one's team would lose members faster than the enemy. After all, there was a resurrection mechanism in the game. The side whose home was stolen would revive in the base, while the attacking side would revive in the base at the other end. It would take more than 10 minutes to rush back. Compared to traditional MOBA games, the most important thing was that there was no level or attribute suppression in this game. If one wanted to win in a crushing manner, it would be very difficult to win by stealing from home unless the team had great teamwork. The general situation was that the stealing side would continuously give away their lives, and then the targeted side would reach the required number of kills to win directly. The 3 winning modes were all set from a practical point of view. Each winning mode could train the player's actual combat ability. As the horn sounded, the players from both sides who had already understood the winning method from the beginner's tutorial stepped across the base's screen and headed toward the center of the map. In the live chat channel, both sides began to discuss which method to choose to win. Switching back and forth between the red and blue sides' live chat channels, Feng Qi's face showed a hint of a smile. He realized that both sides had simply and crudely chosen to win by number of kills. Through God's perspective, he saw that both sides were rushing toward the spirit mine in the center of the map. The twisted forest terrain was more complicated. Although every player could bring up the map at the beginning was a fog. Even if the fog was explored and disappeared, they would not be able to see the position of the other players. The spirit mine became the first choice for team battles. Players who wanted to mine resources would inevitably come to this area. The twisted forest terrain was more complicated. Both sides took a long detour to reach the spirit mine area. The players from both sides went up the mountain path and met at the platform halfway up the mountain. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Both sides were clearly immersed in the game's camp. The blue side was led by Mu Qing. As the future leader of Lemin Can, she now had the temperament of a leader. She immediately began to instruct the players on how to attack in the live chat channel. The red side was led by Lin Ran. He also began to describe the next confrontation in the live chat channel. At this time, the blue side's Mu Qing took the lead to attack. She ran alone toward the red side's leader, Lin Ran. At this time, Kaigwa waved at Mu Qing. The spell's trajectory was automatically completed with the help of the support function. With the consumption of her mana, a green light of buff shot out from her body and enveloped Mu Qing. The 3 Xia brothers attacked from the flanks. As for Su Hanyun, he stayed behind to protect Kaigwa. The battle was about to start. Facing the incoming Mu Qing, Lin Ran took a step back. Yinyu took the lead. Lin Ran released a golden light wave. It turned into a golden belt and suddenly rolled toward Mu Qing. Without the support of the Scarlet Rune Crystal, Mu Qing's reaction was still fast. She leaned forward and dodged the golden belt. After landing on one foot, she continued to run forward. At this time, Yinyu's body emitted a red light. He suddenly punched toward Mu Qing's face. However, before his fist could reach Mu Qing, he was hit in the stomach. Then, Mu Qing's body tilted due to inertia. She used her right hand to support the ground and her left leg to kick Yinyu's chin. As a number appeared above Yinyu's head, his body flew backward. At this time, Lin Ran controlled the golden belt to roll toward Mu Qing again. Mu Qing seemed to have expected it. She used one hand to support the ground and turn around, dodging the attack. At this time, a sharp sword stabbed at Mu Qing's body from a tricky angle. Kaigwa shield. Kaigwa, who had been waiting for a long time, decisively completed the last step of the spell. A pale golden light shield suddenly appeared beside Mu Qing, blocking the sharp sword. After landing safely, Mu Qing didn't even look back. She reflexively kicked Lu Yu and sent him flying. Seeing this scene, Feng Qi was also stunned. Mu Qing's fighting style was like a physical performance. It could be said to be brilliant. Not only did she predict the enemy's attack, She even communicated with her teammates through the live chat channel. She even accurately grasped the point of attack. He always thought that Mu Qing's strength came from the Scarlet Rune Crystal. He didn't expect Mu Qing's own ability to be so outstanding. But he still had doubts in his heart. Logically speaking, Mu Qing hadn't received any combat training. She shouldn't be so skilled in combat. Maybe she received training in this area at the Scarlet Institute. But there's also another possibility. Her combat skills are an instinctive reaction from the rune crystal. After hearing the explanation, he couldn't help but nod. He had also experienced the instinctive skills of the rune crystal. In the previous timeline, after he embedded the ominous shadow rune crystal, a series of instincts accompanied by the integration of his body and the rune crystal. For example, the ability to liquefy was one of them. When he first embedded the rune crystal, he was very unfamiliar with the ability to liquefy. But as time passed, he gradually became able to use it easily. This wasn't the result of training. Instead, it was related to the degree of integration with the rune crystal. Even in reality, there were examples of organ transplants affecting the new host's personality. In comparison, the rune crystal was more thorough. The emotional outburst after embedding the rune crystal was also related to this. Integrating with the rune crystal was a process of taming the rune crystal. If one couldn't tame it, they would be completely controlled by the rune crystal and become a monster. Therefore, the hypothesis that Mu Qing's combat instincts came from the Scarlet Rune Crystal was completely valid. The battle continued. Xia Long, who was attacking from the side, faced Yin Yu. Both of them also started a physical battle. In terms of physical skills, it was obvious that Xia Long was better. But Yin Yu wasn't weak either. At the same time, he could also release offensive spells during the battle, which caused Xia Long a lot of trouble. Both of them were from the Domain Battle Group. Their fighting style was extremely fierce. In the game, they didn't have to worry about whether the other party would be injured. So, they didn't hold back and use their most fatal killing moves. On the left side of Lin Ran's team, Xia Hu and Xia Bao also attacked. They were facing the monk and Jia Yi. Jia Yi and Xia Hu were the first to exchange blows. Jia Yi, who had already set up a formation spell, immediately activated it. A small formation rose up and trapped Xia Hu inside, making it difficult for him to break out. On the other side, facing Xia Bao's attacks, the monk crawled and rolled all the way. He seemed to be randomly dodging, but Xia Bao couldn't do anything about it. Feng Qi, who knew the monk's background, understood in his heart. As the only direct descendant of the Great Wisdom Domain Battle Group, one of the top 10 Domain Battle Group, how could this guy be weak? The decadent attitude he had been showing all this time was just a disguise. If it wasn't for his experience in the previous timeline, he would have been fooled. He thought that this guy, who had the Great Wisdom Domain Battle Group behind him, was just a guy who only wanted to enjoy life and didn't want to improve. He thought of the monk's sudden change in history. This obviously wasn't a sudden change. He just removed his disguise and returned to himself. In the battle between the two sides, the peak battle strength of the two sides was Lin Ran and Mu Qing. Although Lu Yu was strong, the data related to sword force didn't exist even in the future database. Therefore, Lu Yu couldn't use his own sword controlling technique. He could only use his physique cultivator skills and sword moves to attack. As for Lin Ran, he was the absolute king of spells. In addition to the 8 skills of his equipment, he also used spells that he had mastered in the real world to attack Mu Qing. Mu Qing's performance was completely out of Feng Qi's expectations. Team command, physique, cultivator battle skills, precise insight, and prediction. She was like a natural warrior who united her team into a rope. During the battle, she would observe the situation of her teammates from time to time and then give out commands. Under her planning, Xiaolong suddenly gave up on the fight with Yin Yu and attacked Lin Ran, who was still using spells. Seeing this, Lin Ran immediately retreated. In the end, Mu Qing decisively took advantage of the gap between Lin Ran's attacks and kicked Lu Yu's neck. After being kicked, Lu Yu's HP dropped and he staggered to the ground. At this moment, Yang Xiaoxin, who was standing beside Lin Ran, finally released her skill. Countless icicles formed on top of Mu Qing's head, and fell quickly. What happened next made everyone's jaws drop. They saw Mu Qing's figure shifting and leaping through the icicle rain with ease. She was able to dodge all the attacks with ease. As expected of the Demon King of History, who almost became the war god of history. Her battle awareness is amazing. If she continues to train, her potential is limitless. I hope that one day I can have such a strong battle awareness and instinct. Feng Qi also sighed. Don't. Just walk the path of a muscular brute. As long as your muscles are strong enough, there is no enemy that you can't kill with one punch. If there is, then 2, 3. Pegasus Meteor Punch. Feng Qi. He couldn't help but give her the middle finger in his heart, while he looked at the people who were still fighting. At this moment, the team battle also entered a white-hot state. Yang Xiaoxin, Lin Ran, and Lu Yu were fighting Mu Qing and Kai Guo. They were completely at a disadvantage. The only advantage they had was Jia. Jia Yi's formation didn't only have the effect of binding. The characteristic of the formation style could be described with one word: changeable. As the formation flags formed by spirit energy moved, the formation's function would change. Jia Yi, who was standing outside the formation, was like a chess player. He calmly waved his hand to control the changes in the formation flags. He suppressed Xia Hu and kept reducing his HP. Xia Hu, who felt aggrieved, tried to fight to the death. However, he couldn't escape from Jia Yi's trap. Soon, the first kill appeared. Player Sheng Tian by half a Z obtained the first kill. Number of red kills: 1. As the sound resounded throughout the map, Xia Hu's body slowly disappeared on the spot. It had entered the cooldown period. After killing Xia Hu, Jia Yi decisively turned his attention to Mu Qing, who was the most difficult to deal with. With a wave of his hand, several formation flags formed a small formation in the air and pressed down on Mu Qing. Lin Ran also formed a seal with one hand and attacked. He wanted to cooperate with Jia Yi to bind Mu Qing. Mu Qing, who was attacking fiercely, decisively retreated and communicated with Kai Guo in the live chat channel. In the blink of an eye, a light screen appeared in front of Mu Qing and blocked the formation flags. Then, a white light appeared from Kai Guo's eyes and connected with Mu Qing. Mu Qing's stamina quickly recovered. She didn't hesitate. When the light screen shattered, she took a few steps forward and punched the formation flags. With a tiger's roar, a fierce tiger formed by spirit energy appeared behind Mu Qing and tore the 8 formation flags to pieces. Feng Qi wasn't surprised that Mu Qing used the tiger roaring pounce of the tiger fist. When he entered, he had already seen Mu Qing's skill selection. The tiger fist had already passed the review and certification. It made sense that it was included in Breaking Dawn's skill library. After breaking through the formation flags, Mu Qing directly pounced on Jia Yi. It was too late to condense more formation flags. Jia Yi decisively turned around and ran. However, his speed couldn't compare to Mu Qing's, who had chosen the physical cultivation skill. Jia Yi's roar sounded in the red team's live chat channel. Brothers, save me, I'm going to die. Realizing that Jia Yi was in danger, Lu Yu swung his sword at Mu Qing, trying to block her path. What happened next was something that no one had expected. Mu Qing's running figure suddenly stopped, and then she suddenly swept a side kick at LVU. From her smooth movements, it could be seen that she had already expected LVU to block her way. Her real target wasn't Jia Yi, but Lu Yu. Caught off guard, LVU was kicked in the neck by this fierce side kick. Player C. Lu has completed a kill. Blue team kill count: 1. Lu Yu's death was beyond everyone's expectations. The balance of the battle was instantly broken. At this time, Lin Ran knew that he should kill Kai Guo first. Only then would he have a chance to kill Mu Qing, who was the most difficult to deal with. However, the current situation was that if he split his forces to kill Kai Guo, no one would be able to stop Mu Qing. The backline would face a one-sided slaughter. Soon, Jia Yi became Mu Qing's second kill target. At this time, the battle was already one-sided. With Kai Guo's support, Mu Qing's stamina was still abundant. After killing Jia Yi, she went for Lin Ran, who had the highest damage output. Although Lin Ran had mastered many spells, combat was not his strong suit, especially when facing Mu Qing, who had terrifying combat awareness. He used offensive spells to barely hold on for a minute and a half before Mu Qing found an opening and punched him in the neck. His health dropped to 0, and he was forced to leave the stage. Next was Yang Xiaoyi, followed by Yanyu. In front of Mu Qing's ferocious fighting skills, their health bars were emptied one after another. The last one was Tyrant. When he realized that he was the only remaining member of his team, he decisively lay down and no longer resisted. In this team competition, Mu Qing once again showed everyone her terrifying combat ability. The cooldown for resurrection after the battle was over. In the gray and white cooldown area, Lin Ran and the other 4 hugged their knees as they squatted on the ground. Their hearts trembled as they watched the replay of the battle. In this battle, Mu Qing's performance had destroyed their souls. At this time, Tyrant's figure appeared. Brothers, is there an option to surrender? How about we surrender? Chapter 198. The first round of the Breaking Dawn beta test ended with Mu Qing and the other 5 from the blue team winning. After the match ended, everyone exited the map, Twisted Forest. The screen entered a long black screen waiting time. More than 10 minutes later, a translucent screen appeared in front of everyone, including Feng Qi, who was watching the battle. Displayed on the screen was the statistics of this round's match. Apart from a number of kills, there was also the group damage, individual damage, damage taken, assist kills, healing, buffs, and so on. Clicking on the screen, one could also see the number of spells cast, casting efficiency, and so on. Furthermore, he had also compiled a score for every player who participated in the tournament. There were 7 grades from high to low, S, A, B, C, D, E, F. Apart from that, there was also the title of Best of the Match. It would be given to the player with the highest overall score. It would be displayed as a pendant behind the player's game name. There was no suspense in this match. Mu Qing received an S grade evaluation and the title of Best of the Match. Everyone was convinced and didn't have any objections. They kept scrolling down the statistics and looked at the details of their match. From these data, they could clearly understand their own contributions and shortcomings in this round, so that they could make targeted improvements and improvements in the future. At the bottom of the box, there was the option to replay the match. Since this match was a custom mode, there was no change in the ranking points. After clicking to exit, Feng Qi created a group in his friends list and pulled the students into the chat group. Feng Qi, what does everyone feel? Lin Ran, I'm depressed. It was a one-sided suppression. I feel like I was abused. Next time, I hope to be on the same team as Mu Qing. Jia Yi, +1 Yang Xiaoxin, +2 Yanyu, +3 Hui Su, +10086 LVU. This game is very meaningful. Although there is no ability to use sword force in the game, the Back to the Basics training can also effectively improve my sword skills. Can I continue to play? Huaishu, Lu Yu, big brother, don't be like this. It's almost dinner time. Mu Qing, it's pretty fun. I feel like it's easier to control my power in the game than in real life. In real life, I always have to hold back when I release my power, which is very awkward. In the game, I can release my power as much as I want, smile. JPG, Huaishu, Mu Qing, is it really okay for you to say such Versailles words after torturing us? Doesn't your conscience hurt? Can you sleep at night? Kaitwa, haha, this is the first time I've felt so happy being a support. Senior Mu Qing is really too strong. I love her, she's a godly teammate. Su Hongyun, I was just a bystander the whole time. I was told to protect Kaigwa, but in the end, I was just standing still the whole time. I also wanted to contribute to the team. This game is really good, but it's really easy to beat people up when they're not at the same level. Fortunately, this game has a ranking system. Otherwise, if you play a few rounds every day, you'll either be torturing noobs or getting tormented. If you're unlucky and meet several opponents like Mu Qing who can crush you, you'll definitely explode. Xiaolong, big grinning smile. JPG, Yinyu, let's have a custom match after dinner and have another one-on-one duel to determine the winner. After chatting for a while, Feng Qi looked at the time. It was already 5:30 p.m. He signaled everyone to get ready to eat. He opened the list of options and pressed Quit Game. After about 5 minutes, he slowly opened his eyes. The nutrient solution in the game cabin began to decrease at a speed visible to the naked eye. This type of nutrient solution was a one-time item. After the player left the game cabin, the one-time nutrient solution would be discharged into the pipe connected to the sewer. It would not be used a second time, so it had to be replenished frequently. Since it was a diluted nutrient solution produced by the Scarlet Institute, the price was cheap. It could support a player for 3 days. However, the nutrient solution only had the effect of replenishing nutrients. It could not fight hunger at all. When the nutrient solution in the game cabin was emptied, the flexible pipe connected to the game's suit automatically fell off and was put away. As the game cabin opened, Feng Qi bent over and got out of the game cabin. He turned around and saw Lin Ran and the others' game cabins open one after another. They walked out one after another. Let's change our clothes first. We'll eat in the cafeteria. After that, we'll continue training. With that, Feng Qi took the lead and walked to the cubicle. Lin Ran and the others immediately followed. As for Mu Qing, Kai Guo, and Yang Xiaoxin, they went to another room to change their clothes. 10 minutes later, everyone gathered outside the stadium and walked toward the Shuefu restaurant together. Along the way, everyone talked about topics related to Breaking Dawn. Even Lu Yu, who had always been quiet, was very interested in this game. He intentionally or unintentionally suggested that they should stay up all night together. They only understood the meaning behind this game after experiencing it for themselves. It was a problem that troubled the major academies for many years in the future. The lack of combat training would be solved with the promotion of Breaking Dawn. In addition, this game could significantly improve the cultivator's control of spells and combat awareness. Therefore, like Feng Qi, they were full of expectations for the official release of this game. At that time, a large number of cultivators would participate in the matching ranking competition. They could already imagine how spectacular it would be. Looking at the people chatting casually, Feng Qi, who was walking at the back of the team, grinned. Breaking Dawn was not so much a game as an arsenal for cultivating human warriors. It was a super invention that combined entertainment and combat training. This was also the key reason why he was eager to create this game. At this time, the new foundation had been laid. He only waited for the seed to grow and sprout, supporting a brand new future in the long river of history. He had always been looking forward to the future. When they arrived at the Shuefu restaurant, it was already past 6 o'clock. Feeling hungry, everyone took their plates and began to choose their food. It was already autumn. Today, the school's buffet area had a new seasonal delicacy, hairy crab. Unlike before the cataclysm, the hairy crabs in this era were all farmed, but they were also extremely delicious. At this time, there was an endless stream of students in the buffet area where the hairy crabs were placed. In order to satisfy the students' demand for hairy crabs, the chefs at the back of the buffet area were still busy. From time to time, they would take out a large pot of hairy crabs and put it in the buffet area. Feng Qi naturally would not miss this seasonal delicacy. He immediately grabbed 3 hairy crabs from the freshly baked pot and put them on his plate. The pot of hairy crabs was placed in the buffet area, and it was soon empty. Hairy crabs naturally had to be seasoned. Otherwise, they would not have souls. He went to the seasoning area in the middle of the buffet and took a seasoning bowl. Then he took out the chopped scallions, ginger, garlic, and millet pepper and put them in the bowl. Then he added soy sauce and vinegar. After stirring briefly with the serving chopsticks, he took his plate to the north corner of the restaurant and sat down. Then Lin Ran, Mu Qing, and a group of students arrived one after another. The north corner of the restaurant had now become their gathering place. Delicious food had always been one of Feng Qi's few hobbies. He reached out and grabbed a hairy crab. The crab's body was covered with a layer of light yellow oil that seeped out from the inside out. When he sniffed it lightly, he could smell a faint, sweet fragrance. The ingredients provided to Star City University were always the best. At the same price, the ingredient supplier would definitely leave the best for the students of the university. This was because the students here represented the future of mankind. Therefore, every crab was a premium product. He untied the rope tied to the hairy crab and took out the stomach, gills, heart, and intestines. Then he split the crab in half. He dipped it in the sauce and took a bite. The male crab in October had a large body and thick flesh. It was full of fat. The steaming had locked in the freshness of the crab meat. He could feel the sweet crab meat being broken down into shreds as he chewed. After one bite, the aftertaste lingered. The hairy crab was quickly devoured by him, including the meat on each crab leg. Then he ate the second one and the third one. He ate the 3 hairy crabs in a short while. Although he wasn't satisfied, he didn't take more. He planned to fill his stomach first and then enjoy the delicious food. After half an hour of eating, everyone stopped with a satisfied expression. Only Feng Qi and Mu Qing continued eating. After finishing the food on the plate, Feng Qi went to take another plate of hairy crabs. He waited for Mu Qing and enjoyed the delicious food at the same time. The logistics department of Star City University obviously took the students' enthusiasm for hairy crabs into consideration. The crab preparation was very sufficient. The only problem was that the chef team couldn't keep up with the students' speed. It was 7:20. Mu Qing finally stopped eating. A cute and satisfied smile appeared on her face. Let's go to the field for a walk first. We'll enter Breaking Dawn at 8 to start the confrontation training. I'll rearrange the red and blue team members for the confrontation later. As he spoke, Feng Qi stood up at the plate. Lin ran and the others saw this and stood up one after another. They followed Feng Qi to the area where the plates were placed. When they left the restaurant, it was already dark outside. The street lights in the school were all lit up. The sky was slightly red under the illumination. They could clearly see groups of mosquitoes flying around the streetlights. Then, Feng Qi brought the students to the field for a walk and chat. At 8 o'clock, everyone returned to the stadium again. If the library of Star City University was the area with the most people at night, then the stadium was second. The students who took the path of physical cultivation often came to the stadium at night for special training. If it weren't for the excellent soundproofing in the stadium, they could still hear the students' shouts and moans during training. They walked along the walkway in the stadium and arrived at room 1019. After turning on the lights, everyone walked into the cubicles and began to change into their game clothes. A new round of confrontation training began. During the previous confrontation training, Feng Qi realized that Mu Qing was a huge variable. Therefore, after entering the game and creating a custom room, he pulled himself, Mu Qing, and Lin ran into the red team. The other 10 people were assigned to the blue team. He chose to participate in the confrontation because he wanted to train Lu Yu and the others' combat ability. He also wanted to train himself during the confrontation training. As for the difference in strength between the two teams, he wasn't worried because Mu Qing was there. In the next confrontation, he wanted to train the 10 people's cooperation and self-positioning during the team battle. After more than 20 minutes of preparation and setting, the confrontation competition officially began. This time, they were randomly assigned to the Cloud Summit Mountains. The map environment was a mountain peak covered by thick clouds. There was a red sun in the sky, and the scenery was exceptionally beautiful. A new round of confrontation began at this moment. In the next 2 days, Feng Qi led the students to carry out high-intensity, simulated confrontation training. Basically, after one round, they would start the next. Apart from class and mealtime, they spent the rest of their time in room 1019 in the stadium. The results of the training were very obvious. All the students found their positions. For example, Lu Yu and Yang Xiaoxin were the team's absolute main DPS. Yin Yu was the team's #1 meat shield. The 3 Xiao brothers acted as support and were responsible for coordinating with the main DPS to launch attacks. Kai Guo was the team's only healer. She was responsible for buffing the teammates' status, treating injuries, and recovering stamina. Su Hongyun and the monk were responsible for backline protection and didn't take the initiative to attack. When necessary, they would choose to sacrifice themselves to protect the backline's main DPS. Finally, there was this special support Jia Yi. Jia Yi's position in the team was relatively unclear because he could be both support and attack. He could also form a formation to block the enemy's long-range attacks. He could even use formations to set up traps and sneak attack the enemy. In the past 2 days of training, the 10 people gradually became more mature in terms of team battle awareness. Their cooperation also improved significantly. In the beginning, their voice channel was filled with all kinds of insults. Except for the taciturn Lu Yu, the other 9 people felt that their failure was the fault of their stupid teammates and had nothing to do with them. Therefore, after every match, they would exchange pleasantries with each other. Of course, this wasn't what Feng Qi wanted to see. Therefore, after every match, he, Lin Ran, and Mu Qing would work together to deduce the reason why the 10 of them lost the match. They would find out their weaknesses and then give them suggestions. Under such high-intensity training, Lu Yu and the others' teamwork improved by leaps and bounds. At the beginning of a battle, they could also quickly know what to do instead of being clueless like headless flies. Apart from that, during this period of high-intensity training, the 10 of them had also significantly improved their control over their spells. For example, Kaigua. In the past 2 days, she had been constantly casting a buff spell called Nature's Spirit. She gradually mastered the casting technique. When she tried to use the skill track in the game to cast spells in reality, she succeeded once or twice out of 10 times. Although this was also related to the fact that Nature's Spirit was a very simple spell in itself. It also showed that the game Breaking Dawn could indeed help players, cultivators, improve their control over spells and even learn new spells. On the 3rd day, there were still 2 days before the new student competition. Feng Qi changed the training method. This time, he pulled Lin Ran, Mu Qing, and himself to the spectator seats. Then, he set up 200 robots to join the competition. Although the robots didn't have much intelligence, and it was difficult for them to perform effectively in a game that completely simulated reality, they had the advantage of numbers, and there was no delay in casting spells. In the new student competition, the number of participants in the other classes was several times that of Combat Class 3. This time, Feng Qi planned to train them to fight with fewer people in a team battle. It turned out that the training in the past few days was very effective. Lu Yu and the others performed very well in the face of 200 robots. Out of the 7 matches, he had actually won 2 of them. And this was when Lu Yu didn't use his sword technique. This made Feng Qi even more confident about the upcoming new student competition. Chapter 199. There was still 1 day left before the new student competition began. After breakfast, Feng Qi pushed his luggage and led the students to the entrance of the gymnasium. There were already 3 buses parked in front of the gymnasium. On the windows of each bus was the name of the class they were going to take. There were 3 classes participating in Star City University this time. They were Combat Class 3, Combat Class 6, and Combat Class 8. Combat Class 2 originally wanted to participate, but after a friendly match with Combat Class 6, they realized that even if they participated, they would only be there to make up the numbers, so they simply chose to give up. This year's new student competition was held in Victory City, just like the previous years. Victory Academy in Victory City was also the academy that had won the most new student competition championships in the past years. After arriving at the bus with the name of Combat Class 3 and explaining the situation to the smoking driver, he led the students to put down their luggage and then boarded the bus. After confirming that everyone had arrived, the middle-aged driver took a puff of the cigarette in his hand, then went to the trash can in front of the gymnasium, threw the cigarette butt, and then boarded the bus. Without waiting for the other classes, the middle-aged driver sat in the driver's seat and immediately started the bus and drove out of Star City University. The scenery outside the window quickly flashed by. After the bus drove out of Star City University, it headed in the direction of Star City East Airport. After a 2-hour journey, the bus stopped at the airport. Feng Qi and the students got off the bus with their luggage. After shaking hands with the staff who came to pick them up, they followed him in the direction of the special airport. After a while, they followed the staff and boarded the plane specially prepared for Star City University. Before the other classes arrived, the plane would not take off. Feng Qi gathered Lu Yu and the others together and talked about the new student competition. He had done a detailed understanding of the participating classes of the other academies. In particular, there was a post on Star City University's forum that explained the approximate strength of this year's participating classes in detail. For these participating classes, they discussed together last night and formulated different strategies to fight against them. While chatting, the teachers in charge of Combat Class 8 and Combat Class 6 brought the students onto the plane. After greeting each other, Feng Qi and the teachers of Class 6 and Class 8 began to count the number of students in the class. After confirming that there was no mistake, he explained the information to the staff. A moment later, the plane slowly approached the runway. Along with the feeling of being pushed back, the plane began to climb up. Not counting the memories from the future, this was the first time he had left Star City. In the memories of the future timeline, the 2 times he left Star City, he was rushing to his death. His heart was filled with determination. Looking at the shrinking scenery outside the window, he sighed in his heart. "Brother Qi, if we win the championship, how do you plan to spend the prize money?" Lin Ran suddenly asked curiously. Feng Qi turned to look at Lin Ran and said with a smile, "How about I treat you to a good meal at Shuefu restaurant?" "Just this? Don't tell me we're going out to eat?" "The food outside isn't as good as the food in the academy." "That's true. However, I'm still looking forward to this year's new student competition. Back then, I also participated and lost miserably to Victory Academy." Hearing this, a hint of surprise appeared on Feng Qi's face. "You participated in it too?" "Of course, I'm not a freshman. I'm an exchange student of Chilly Winter Academy. Naturally, I participated in it when I was a freshman." "Aren't you a student of the cultivation technique class?" "At that time, my strength was not bad, so I was temporarily transferred to the combat class. After the competition, I returned to the cultivation technique class." After understanding the situation, Feng Qi suddenly understood. "What was the ranking of your class at that time?" "Our Chilly Winter Academy can be said to be second place for 10,000 years. We were always suppressed by Victory Academy. I was no exception that year and got second place. However, this year's situation is different. According to the analysis on the internet, our Chilly Winter Academy is the favorite to win this year and is also our class's biggest opponent." Through chatting with Lin Ran, Feng Qi had a clearer understanding of the new student competition. The new student competition was a large-scale event held every year in the Eastern region. The attention on the internet was also very high, and the competition process would be broadcasted live on the internet. There were 5 academies participating this time. They were Star City University in Star City, Future Academy in Future City, Chilly Winter Academy in Chilly Winter City, Victory Academy in Victory City, and Old Sun City and Old Sun Academy in the most remote area of the Eastern region. The academies participating in the new student competition were all academies with combat faculty. As for the Science and Technology Academy, the Array Academy, and the Elixir Academy, and other academies without combat faculty, they did not participate in the new student competition. While chatting, Feng Qi turned his head and looked out the window. The plane had already flown away from Star City. Through the window, he could see the other side of the world. Different colored fields covered different areas. They were like parasites rooted in the human world. The coverage of the fields also included the sky. During the flight, the plane needed to avoid the specially marked fields. In the beginning, many air accidents occurred when the plane flew into the fields, especially those fields with completely different rules from the human world. A series of terrifying events were very likely to occur when the plane plunged into them. Gravity imbalance, instant disintegration, engine explosion, monster attack. There were many air accidents because of the fields in the early days, except for those fields that were marked as being able to fly across. The specially marked fields were all restricted flying. 3 hours later, the plane began to descend through the clouds. Through the window, he saw a bustling modern city. Victory City was a famous historical city and the most legendary city in the Eastern region. Its birth could be traced back to the very beginning of the field invasion. At that time, in order to resist the invasion of the field expansion, several cities chose to integrate their armies and formed the early Victory Army. The relationship between the major cities also became closer during that time, and the embryonic form of Victory City was born. The word victory contained the determination of the early residents of this area to resist the fields, as well as their desire for victory. The final victory was exchanged with the sacrifice of millions of soldiers and residents. Victory City, which was built under the baptism of blood, and Victory Academy was the only academy in the eastern region that trained war commanders. For more than 500 years, many commanders of the Army and Field Battle Group came from Victory Academy. The Academy's teaching model followed the path of training elites. More than 10 minutes later, accompanied by a sense of weightlessness, the plane landed at the airport in the northern part of Victory City. When the plane came to a stop, the captain's voice came from the broadcast. The plane's cabin door opened at this time, and everyone got off the plane one after another. At the stop not far away, a number of buses were already waiting. After shaking hands with the staff who came to receive them, they were led to the bus. The bus slowly drove out of the airport and headed in the direction of Victory Academy. Along the way, Feng Qi looked through the window and admired the scenery of Victory City. The architecture of Victory City wasn't as novel as Star City, and it wasn't as technologically advanced as Future City. There were many old buildings in the bustling city. These buildings had been through the baptism of time, and there were still mottled traces on the outer walls. But these buildings were all preserved, because these buildings had their own historical stories. The former residence of the heroes, the battle command room, the memorial hall. Every inch of land here was branded with a thick historical color. After a few hours of travel, the sky gradually darkened. The bus also arrived at the gate of Victory Academy at this time. A blood-stained statue stood in front of the gate of Victory Academy, looking majestic. Through the introduction of the accompanying staff, he learned about it. The figure on the statue was the founder of Victory Academy, the 8th Commander-in-Chief of the Victory Army, Ji Xianfeng. After the driver showed his identification, the bus was let in and slowly drove into the academy. Stone tablets stood on both sides of the road, and each tablet recorded a war. Every name on it was a student who came out of Victory Academy. On the road that was more than 300 meters long, there was a tablet for every step and a war for every tablet. Every name on it was a martyr who died in this war. This gave Feng Qi a great shock. He couldn't help but think of those vigorous students who came out of the academy and rushed to the battlefield with expectations for the future. The bus continued to drive for more than 10 minutes and stopped in front of the dormitory building. After getting out of the bus, the staff immediately came forward. After understanding the dormitory arrangements, he took his luggage and entered the dormitory building with a group of students. After a while, he came to room 1702 and swiped his card to enter the door. After putting down his luggage, he went back to the dormitory building. While waiting, Lin Ran and the others who had put down their luggage also came one after another. Then, under the guidance of the staff, they came to the dining hall of Victory Academy to have dinner. The food in Victory Academy was exactly the same as the food in Star City University last month. Feng Qi wasn't surprised by this. After all, the chef team of each major academy rotated once a month. This time, the chef team at Victory Academy was most likely the chef team of Star City University last month. After dinner, everyone was brought to the reception conference hall of Victory Academy. 9 o'clock in the evening. The students of the participating classes of the 5 major academies were all seated. As the organizer of this year's new student competition, the principal of Victory Academy arrived at this time. The principal looked very young, about 40 years old. He had an amiable smile on his face, giving people a gentle feeling. After sitting on the rostrum, he began to explain the situation of this year's new student competition. After half an hour of explanation, the assistant took out the lottery box. As a representative of Combat Class 3, Feng Qi immediately got up and went to the rostrum to line up and draw lots. There were a total of 12 participating classes. Star City University had 3 classes, Future Academy had 2 classes, Chilly Winter Academy had 4 classes, Old Time Academy had 2 classes, and Victory Academy had 1 class. The number of participants in each class was 60. Feng Qi's Combat Class 3 was an exception. They only had 10 participants. The process of the competition was very simple. In the first round, the 12 classes were divided into 6 groups: B, C, D, E, and F. 2 classes in each group competed for the right to qualify. In the second round, the 6 classes were divided into groups A, B, C, D, and E, F to compete for the right to qualify. In the third round, 1 class would draw a bye, and the other 2 classes would compete. The fourth round was the finals. During this period, the classes that lost the right to qualify also had to compete until all the rankings were clear. In the first round of drawing lots, Feng Qi drew Group B. Combat Class 1 from Future Academy also drew Group B. The results of the draw were then announced on the big screen. After returning to his seat and sitting down, Lin Ran turned to look at him. "Brother Qi, the first round wasn't challenging. With our strength, it was easy. Be humble." Feng Qi grinned. "But the second round will be against Chilly Winter Academy's Combat Class 4. It should be fun." While chatting, Principal Ji of Victory Academy returned to the rostrum and began to set the time for tomorrow's competition. The final results were announced on the big screen again. When they returned to the dormitory, it was already 10 p.m. After bidding farewell to Lin Ran and the others in front of the dormitory, Feng Qi returned to his room. Compared to Star City University, the students' rooms at Victory Academy were larger and had a complete set of facilities. He came to the balcony and pushed open the glass door. The cool night breeze poured into the room. Leaning on the balcony, he curiously looked at the night view of Victory Academy. On the 17th floor, most of the scenery of Victory Academy could be seen. At that moment, he noticed a figure standing on the balcony of another room on the left. When he turned to look, he found that the person's attire was extremely strange. He wore a red Taoist robe and held an 8 trigrams plate in his right hand. At that moment, he was looking up at the stars in the sky. His attire was very familiar to Feng Qi. He felt like he had seen him somewhere before. Thinking back, he suddenly remembered where he had seen him before. He had searched for information about Lumin Kin in Star City's database. Among the information, there was a brief introduction to the members of Lumin Kin. The information also referred to the highest level of Lumin Kin as the 1 demon, 3 evils, and 8 heavenly kings. The image of the man in front of him was very similar to Qin Shikong of Lumin Kin's 3 evils. Narrator, am I seeing things? Yes, he is the Qin Shikong in the picture when I was looking through the information. Listening to the narrator's answer, he nodded in his mind. As for why Qin Shikong would appear here, he could completely understand. The new student competition was not only watched by students and netizens from the major universities, but also by many field battle groups. Every year, the head of the field battle group would personally come to the new student competition to select good seedlings worthy of attention in advance. Therefore, it was normal for Qin Shikong to come. Seemingly aware of his gaze, Qin Shikong turned his head and looked at him. Then, a smile appeared on his face. "Are you here for the competition?" "No, I'm taking a class to the competition." Realizing that the person in front of him was his counterpart in the next timeline, Feng Qi immediately responded with a smile. "Taking a class to the competition? You're so young, and yet you're so old. You're Feng Qi. You've heard of me. Your reputation as a genius has been like thunder to my ears recently." As he spoke, he looked up at the starry sky, then turned his head again to Feng Qi. "Are you interested in having your fortune told?" Feng Qi was taken aback when he heard this. "Fortune told? Why? Do you think I'm an unreliable psychic?" Qin Shikong responded with a smile. Feng Qi, who didn't believe in metaphysics from the bottom of his heart, thought about it and nodded. "Then give me a divination. Tell me your birth date, horoscope. Tell me everything." "Horoscope?" Feng Qi was stunned. "A combination of Chinese and Western divination. I created it myself." Qin Shikong grinned. "Haha, this guy's a bit interesting. His self-created fortune-telling method is too unreliable. Hurry up and try it. Let's see what he can tell." Looking at Qin Shikong, he was speechless. But thinking that they would be his counterparts in the next timeline, he pondered for a moment and told Qin Shikong his horoscope, birth date, and other information. After learning this information, Qin Shi Huang looked up at the starry sky, flicked his left hand, and held up the 8 trigrams plate with his right hand. He entered a state of divination. After a series of operations that he couldn't understand, Qin Shi Huang suddenly turned his head and looked at him with a surprised expression. "Hey, how did I know that you would die young?" Feng Qi was speechless. Listening to the laughter of the narrator, the corners of his mouth twitched. "Why don't you do another divination?" "Okay, then I'll do another one." Qin Shi Huang immediately nodded. Chapter 200. Feng Qi originally thought that Qin Shi's divination was purely a joke. Since he was young, he had never heard of divination that could predict a person's future and fate. But when he heard Qin Shi say that he would die young, he suddenly felt that Qin Shi seemed to have this ability. At this time, Qin Shi raised the 8 trigrams plate, looked up at the starry sky, and began the second divination. From time to time, he turned his head to look at him. After a series of incomprehensible operations, Qin Shi's expression became more and more solemn. When Qin Shi stopped, Feng Qi immediately asked, "What's the result of this divination?" "The divination has changed, I don't want to say." Qin Shi suddenly shook his head. "This old Taoist is making fun of us. Beat him up." The narrator scolded angrily. At this time, Feng Qi also looked confused. From Qin Shi's expression, he seemed to have seen something. Thinking of this, he looked at Qin Shi again and said, "No matter what the divination is, tell me. I can take it." Hearing this, Qin Shi suddenly grinned. "Kid, I'm just joking with you. Do you really think I could do divination? What era is it now? Do you still believe in this?" Feng Qi was speechless. At this time, he really had the urge to attack Qin Shi. But for some reason, he felt that Qin Shi's words seemed to be hiding something. But since Qin Shi didn't want to elaborate, he didn't want to get to the bottom of it. "Do you believe in fate?" At this time, Qin Shi suddenly looked at him and asked. "No," Feng Qi said without hesitation. "Why? The road is under your feet. How you walk depends on you. If the path I choose is difficult to go against, I will do it." "Huh, you're right. Don't go forward because of the divination. You're a little interesting." Qin Shi suddenly laughed. As he spoke, he reached out and took out a wine gourd from his waist, pulled out the cork, and took a sip. "You're a little interesting. Come drink with me." As he spoke, he tossed the wine gourd to Feng Qi. Reaching out to take the wine gourd, Feng Qi was about to take a sip when the narrator's voice sounded in his mind. "This gourd might be stained with the old Taoist saliva. She might get pregnant if she drinks it, right?" When he heard the narrator's words, he immediately lost his desire to drink and threw the wine gourd back with slight disdain. "I don't drink. This is no ordinary wine. It's the elixir wine that I always carry with me. Normally, I would only take a sip of it when I'm injured. I appreciate your kind intentions, but I don't drink." Tisk tsk. A few days ago, a certain someone placed an order to purchase a batch of ingredients for brewing Qingxin liquor. Now, she's lying through her teeth and refusing to drink it. This is as fake as a jerk lying to a girl and saying that he's never been in a relationship. Ignoring the narrator's sarcasm, he looked at Qin Xuan and said, "May I ask who you are?" "Sky Pillar Domain Battle Group, Qin Xuan. I've heard a lot about you." Feng Qi immediately smiled. "You might not even have heard of me. Don't try to be polite with me. You city people like to beat around the bush. I don't like it." Qin Shi Guang immediately waved his hand. At this time, the Sky Pillar Domain Battle Group, led by Qin Shi Guang, obviously hadn't been promoted to the top 100 battle groups. Therefore, he mistakenly thought that Feng Qi's words were completely flattering him. "Then, what's the purpose of your visit to Victory Academy?" "Of course, I'm here to see if there are any good seedlings worth cultivating. A few days ago, my battle group suffered a great loss in Soaring Wind Domain. We need to replenish our members in the near future." Facing the inquiry, Qin Shi Guang didn't hide anything and immediately revealed the purpose of his visit. Then he looked at Feng Qi and grinned. "Are you interested in developing in my Sky Pillar Battle Group? Forget it. If I agree with you, my principal will probably fly here overnight and kidnap me." "That's true. You're a research and development talent. It's a waste of your talent to join my Sky Pillar Battle Group." Hearing this, Feng Qi rolled his eyes and then asked curiously, "What's the matter? Since you can tell fortunes, have you told your own fortune before?" Facing the question, Qin Shiguang was also stunned. Then, he smiled and shook his head. "I want to, but I've never done it before." "Why? Is it like what's written in novels where a fortune teller's lifespan will be shortened if he divulges heavenly secrets or deduces his own future? There will only be surprises in the future if you continue to be ignorant about the future. What's more, fortune-telling is just a hobby of mine. It's never accurate." Hearing this, Feng Qi suddenly thought of him every time they met in the future. The feeling of seeing the future ending at a glance was really hopeless. While chatting, the relationship between the two became much closer. After a while, Feng Qi said goodbye to Qin Shiguang and returned to his room. Then, he closed the balcony door. After Feng Qi left, Qin Shiguang continued to look up at the starry sky. It seemed that he wanted to find a regular trajectory in the complicated star chart. After a while, he glanced at the spot where Feng Qi had been standing just now. A hint of doubt appeared on his face. After returning to his room, Feng Qi opened his suitcase and took out his pajamas. After taking a shower, brushing his teeth, and changing into his pajamas, he lay on the bed and quickly fell asleep. The next day, he woke up very early. Then, he called the students one by one to prevent them from falling asleep and forgetting to participate in the competition. After washing up, he went to the dormitory building and began to wait. After a while, Lin Ran and the others arrived one after another. Everyone seemed to have had a good sleep last night. Only the monk looked sleepy and exhausted. Next, he took the group of students to have breakfast. After breakfast, they began to tour the scenery of Victory Academy. The total area of Victory Academy was not as large as Star City University. However, the interior design of the academy was very exquisite. It was divided into two areas. The area with the library as the core was similar to the garden design before the cataclysm. There were mountains, rivers, and pavilions. There were many goldfish in the pond in front of the library building. As they walked by, they saw students feeding them. The other part was the teaching area. The architectural style here was relatively rough. There were sandpits for actual combat training everywhere, as well as various open-air exercise equipment. In addition, there were war simulation sand tables placed in front of the teaching building. After spending 2 hours strolling around, they had only visited a part of the Victory Academy. At this time, the freshman competition was approaching. They immediately walked in the direction of Victory Academy's combat arena. After a while, Feng Qi brought everyone to a square arena the size of a football field. At this time, the spectator seats on both sides of the arena were already filled with students from Victory Academy, as well as warriors from the foreign domain battle groups. In the arena, the two teams in Group A were also ready, listening to the referee explain the rules of the competition. The reason for the rules was for the safety of the participating students. This was also a problem that had always existed in confrontational competitions. Even in the fighting competitions before the cataclysm, there was a need to limit and protect the participants. Even so, there would still be injuries. In the modern era after the cataclysm, the situation was even more serious. Although the participating students did not have much actual combat training, they were all cultivators. Their attacks were shockingly lethal. If they were not careful, they could kill their opponents. Every competition had a higher risk of injuries. Body cultivators were fine. At least their physical strength was high and they could withstand higher damage. If they were pure spirit cultivators, they would lose half of their life if they were hit by a lethal spell. In serious cases, they might even die directly. Injuries were unavoidable in confrontational competitions, but they had to be avoided as much as possible. This was also the main reason why Feng Qi had always been eager to create Breaking Dawn. When the referee finished explaining the rules, he retreated out of the arena. The two teams also retreated to the two sides of the arena. Following the gunshot that signaled the start of the competition, the two teams began to move. The team standing on the left side of the arena was Chili Winter Academy's Combat Class 3. Although they were not the top-seeded class of Chili Winter Academy, their strength was not weak. The outside world had a very high evaluation of them. They were fighting against Old Day Academy's Combat Class 3. At this time, the warriors in the front row of the two teams immediately went forward. The main force in the back row retreated and got into a battle formation. The 23 students led by Chilly Winter Academy took the lead and attacked the opponent's camp. Chilly Winter Academy's fighting style had always been valiant. The academy's creed was survival of the fittest. Students were encouraged to compete. At the risk of being hit by spells, their warriors broke through the battle formation of the Old Day Academy's Combat Class 3 at the moment of contact. Immediately after, the students from both sides charged into the Old Day Academy's battle formation, disrupting the opponent's formation. For a moment, Old Day Academy's combat class panicked. However, they quickly adjusted and tried to launch a counterattack. However, it was too late to turn the situation around. The battle had just started, and it was already a one-sided situation. Seeing this, the spectators had already guessed the result of this competition. Just as everyone had expected, the Chilly Winter Academy relied on their ferocious fighting style to quickly win the competition. This was a contest between cultivators. Reality was not a turn-based system. There was no such thing as you and I, and it would take a long time to fight. It was also not a fight between masters and novels. It looked gorgeous, but took a long time to fight. During this period, there was even a time when one became stronger and suppressed the other party. Then the other party would become stronger and suppress the other party. In the middle, there would be a protagonist who would awaken in anger and suppress the other party. There were several chapters on the water, and the battle only ended after a long time. In a battle between cultivators, it was very difficult to be truly evenly matched. The battle often ended in a short period of time. Even if there was a situation where both sides were evenly matched, it would usually only appear in a battle between physical cultivators. If it was a battle between spirit cultivators that was purely offensive, the outcome would often be decided in an instant. Apart from the auxiliary and defensive spells, the battle between them was like a gun duel between Western cowboys. Both sides would throw lethal spells at each other. Whoever hit the other first would be the winner. It was also possible that the spells thrown at each other would hit each other, and they would both be injured or die. Therefore, the battle group configuration was so important. It required a meat shield type member to be responsible for resisting damage and protecting the damage output in the back row. After the first round of the competition ended, the medical staff outside the field, who had long been prepared, rushed to the ring with stretchers and began to check the condition of the injured. They took away the seriously injured for emergency treatment. Half an hour later, a notification sounded on the broadcast. Star City University's Combat Class 3 students prepare for battle in the ring. Future Academy's Combat Class 1 students prepare for battle in the ring. Hearing the broadcast, Feng Qi turned to look at Lu Yu and the others behind him and smiled. Perform well. Don't embarrass our Star City University outside. Good luck. Mu Qing also clenched her fist and cheered at this time. If we win, Star City University will treat you to a big meal. It's time to show off. Lin Ran grinned. Lu Yu and the others immediately nodded. Then, they took a small detour and walked up the stairs to the ring. They stood in the middle of the ring. Future Academy's Combat Class 1 students also walked up at this time. When they saw that Star City University's Combat Class 3 only had 10 people, they were stunned. When they looked at the competition list, they found that Star City University's Combat Class 3 had a problem with the number of people. The other classes had a full complement of 60 people, but this class only had 10 people participating. At that time, many people thought that the statistics had been uploaded wrongly. But now that they saw it with their own eyes, they realized that Star City University's Combat Class 3 really only had 10 people participating. At the same time, they were also speechless. Clearly, they thought that Combat Class 3 was here to give them warmth. It could also be considered a passive competition. At this time, the referee walked up to the middle of the two teams and began to repeat the rules. 10 minutes later, the referee walked down the ring. The two teams on the ring also retreated to the sides. At this time, the signal gun sounded. Lu Yu confidently took a step forward. Xia Long and Xia, who attacked from the left, while Xiaobao and Yin Yu attacked from the right. Seeing that the 10 people in front of them chose to take the initiative to attack, the Future Academy's Combat Class 1 students were stunned. At this time, Lu Yu's body condensed white sword aura. The air flickered with a sharp edge, and a gust of sword aura swept forward. The Future Academy's Combat Class 1 students felt a stinging pain when their skin came in contact with the gust. It was as if an invisible sharp blade had brushed past their skin. Some students with weaker bodies even had blood seeping out of their skin. Lu Yu hadn't even started his attack, but he had already put a lot of pressure on his opponents. Don't let your guard down. Get into formation and fight. Hearing the captain's order, the Future Academy's Combat Class 1 assistants immediately began to draw the spell. A layer of sparkling and translucent light gradually enveloped their bodies to resist the sword aura's attack. At this time, the attacks from the left and right sides closed in. Xia Long and Xia Hu on the left, and Xia Bao and Yin Yu on the right suddenly crashed into the crowd and began to fight with the enemy's front row. The fight between fists and flesh began. However, they were under great pressure. Each of them had to face the attacks of more than 10 people. Fortunately, Kaiguo was very supportive. She kept drawing the spell's trajectory to heal the 4 of them and restore their strength. At this time, Lu Yu took another step forward. Suddenly, sword marks appeared on the ring made of special spirit ore. With every step forward, there seemed to be countless sharp swords revolving around his body. When he waved his hand forward, the invisible sword aura swept forward. The sword aura easily pierced through the Future Academy's Combat Class 1 students' body surface protection, leaving bloody marks on their bodies. Admit defeat. All of you aren't my match, even if you attack together. If I really attack, none of you will survive. Upon hearing this, the students of the Future Academy's Combat Class 1 were horrified. However, they also realized that Lu Yu wasn't joking. He really had such strength. Below the ring, looking at the indifferent Lu Yu with his sword on his back, Ran couldn't help but cover his face. Brother Chi, Lu Yu is acting cool again. Good acting. He's representing Star City University. All his actions of showing his strength are to make our Star City University proud, Feng Chi said with a grin. Hearing this, Ran was taken aback. Then he also laughed. At this time, Lu Yu stood there in the ring, suppressing the Future Academy's Combat Class 1 students so much that they didn't dare to act rashly. At this time, Lu Yu spoke again. Admit defeat. There's no point in continuing to fight. No, the team leader said unyieldingly. At this time, the sword aura emitted a sharp light and pierced into their skin. Blood immediately gushed out. Admit defeat. At this moment, the teacher standing outside the field immediately shouted. Hearing this, Lu Yu waved his hand and dispersed the sword aura. Future Academy's Combat Class 1 admits defeat. The battle is over, the referee shouted. Hearing the referee's announcement, the spectators outside the ring were in an uproar. Feng Chi gave a thumbs up to Lu Yu, who turned around and looked at him. Seeing this, Lu Yu revealed a rare smile. As expected of burial item number 1. Not only is he strong, but he can also act cool. Should I bring him along to join Lemin Can in the next timeline? I can consider it. We'll talk about it when we get back. Chapter 201. After the battle ended, Lu Yu became the focus of the audience. The captains of the battle groups who were spectating the battle had their eyes lit up. Although the participants of the tournament were all freshmen, they were all elites of their respective school's battle department. Among them, there was no lack of rookies with huge potential. Lu Yu's performance had already attracted their attention. They were all experienced frontline soldiers and could tell at a glance that Lu Yu was using a sword force that was extremely difficult to cultivate. He had already become a delicious cake in the eyes of these battle group captains. The students of the other participating classes also suddenly understood why Star City University's Battle Class 3 dared to participate in the tournament with only 10 people. Among the participants of the various schools, there were many elites like the 3 Xiao brothers and Yin Yu who came from domain battle groups. However, Lu Yu was the only one who could cultivate a sword force. The audience was suddenly filled with anticipation for Lu Yu's next performance. Lu Yu, I give you full marks for this pretentious act. Lin Ran joked as he looked at Lu Yu, who was walking towards him. Hearing this, Lu Yu shook his head indifferently and said, I never act pretentious. Instantly, boos sounded from all around. Good pretentious act. Continue to act pretentious later. Act as much as you can. Feng Qi grinned. Lu Yu opened his mouth and said, I will try my best. At this moment, the broadcast sounded again. Everyone's attention was focused on the arena. Next was Group C's match. Battle Class 6 of the Future Academy versus Battle Class 6 of the Victory Academy. Although Victory Academy only had one class participating, these 60 people were the best of the best. This class was also a popular seeded class for this year's freshman tournament. In this battle, Victory Academy's performance caused an uproar. As soon as the battle started, the Victory Academy displayed extremely outstanding teamwork. This battle could be described as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Especially the class captain, a student who wore glasses and looked very ordinary. His talisman battle technique made people's scalps tingle. As a spirit cultivator, he took the initiative to charge with the team. Facing the 3 main meat shields, he nimbly dodged and used spirit energy to draw talismans. Each talisman could take away an opponent. In the end, the battle ended in less than 10 minutes. Victory Academy's battle class obtained the right to advance to Group C with an absolute advantage. Then, it was Group D, E, and Group F's matches. Group D was an internal battle between Star City University students and Class 6-1. The Star City Academy's fighting department wasn't famous, and their performance in this duel was mediocre. However, the audience was very enthusiastic, and they gave the winning class a warm applause. Among them, the most outstanding performance was in Group F. The Chilly Winter Academy's combat class, one used their valiant fighting style to explain what a boorish fighting style was. As the most popular seeded class, Battle Class 1 Battle Class 1 Battle Class 1 Battle Academy had was battles. At the beginning of the battle, the captain led his team and rushed into the battle formation of the old Class 7, using an extremely violent method to knock down all the members of the opposing team. UU had another characteristic. Their students were very ruthless and beat up several UUU students until they couldn't get up and fainted. The results of the top 6 were out. It was noon, and they entered the resting stage. During this period, the busiest was the medical team outside the arena. They constantly carried the injured away for emergency treatment. As for the students who suffered light injuries, they were sent to Victory Academy's healing chamber to recover their bodies and continue the battle in the afternoon. After lunch, Feng Qi brought the students back to the preparation area on the side of the arena and sat down. At this time, both sides of the arena were filled with Victory Academy students. Even the aisles of the seats were filled with students who came to watch the battle. With the home advantage, when Victory Academy's battle class members came to the preparation area, the audience erupted in cheers. Brother Qi, if we win against Victory Academy here, we'll be beaten up, Lin Ran said at this time. Feng Qi heard this and smiled indifferently. When the time comes, you cover the back. We'll run first. I'll protect you. Mu Qing raised her fist and said with a serious expression, Don't, senior sister Mu Qing. Your attacks are too scary. I'd rather be beaten up than become a murderer. Lin Ran decisively admitted defeat. Half an hour later, the referee appeared. Then, an announcement was heard from the broadcast. Chilly Winter Academy's Combat Class 3, prepare for battle. Starry Academy's Combat Class 3, prepare for battle in the arena. Feng Qi looked at Lu Yu and the others, who had already stood up. All the best. Don't worry, Brother Qi. We will definitely win, Su Hongyun replied with a serious expression. A moment later, both teams arrived at the arena. After the referee briefly repeated the rules, he left the field. The two teams retreated to the two sides of the arena. Along with the sound of the signal gun, the battle was about to start. The students of Chilly Winter Academy's Combat Class 3 had already realized how terrifying Lu Yu was from yesterday's battle. The warriors in the front row immediately lined up and wanted to use the human wall to block Lu Yu's sword aura attack. The support staff at the back quickly drew a spell and condensed several spirit energy barriers in front of the battle formation. Luyu, can you do it alone? If you can, we won't go up, Monk said at this time. Let's try. Luyu took a step forward as he spoke, and the sword aura gradually condensed. With a wave of his hand, the biting cold sword aura surrounded his body and crisscrossed, leaving a sword mark on the ground. Seeing Luyu walking over alone, the students of Chilly Winter Academy's Class 3 were furious. Even though they knew that Luyu was powerful, they still felt that it was a provocation. Immediately, 5 melee fighters approached, trying to test LVU's ability to resist attacks in a melee way. However, before the 5 of them could get close, they suddenly felt a sharp pain between their eyebrows. Then, a stream of blood dripped down from their forehead. I've held back. Back down. I'll treat it as if you're dead. We're not dead, a student immediately shouted. Oh, do you really want me to kill you? The student opened his mouth, and his expression instantly became bitter. Then, he obediently retreated to the side. Seeing that his 5 teammates had chosen to give up, the captain of Chilly Winter Academy's Class 3 had an ugly expression and immediately let out a roar. The attackers in the back row, who had already drawn the trajectory of their spells, threw their spells one after another, and then used their consciousness to guide the spells toward Luyu. In the face of the intensive spell attack, Luyu was calm and composed. With a wave of his hand, he drew a trace of condensed sword intent from Sword Billow and pointed it toward the sky. Suddenly, a sharp sword aura soared into the sky, shattering all the spells in the sky. Suddenly, a colorful rain of spirit chi light spots began to fall from the sky. With another wave of his hand, the sword intent in his hand turned into a white sword aura and swept forward, destroying all the spell barriers. In the end, the sword intent stopped at the neck of the captain of Chilly Winter Academy's Class 3. If this was the battlefield, you'd already be dead. Hearing this, the captain of Chilly Winter Academy's Class 3 had a bitter expression, then nodded and said, "We lost." At this moment, the audience was in an uproar, and endless applause could be heard. In this new world where the strong were respected, Luyu's performance had completely convinced everyone present. At this moment, on the other side of the arena, Su Hongyun said with a depressed expression, "I really want to participate in the battle. Why are we like Luyu's background? We can't do anything." Hearing this, the monk smiled and hooked his arm around Su Hongyun's shoulder, then pinched his chubby cheeks and said, "You're like a Chinibyu. Can't you be more mature, like me? If you can slack off, then don't work hard. If you can't have a background, then don't be the main character." Hearing this, Su Hongyun struggled. "I won't." At this moment, the referee announced the result of the battle. At this moment, Luyu also turned around and walked down the arena with his teammates. Seeing this scene, Fengqi and Lin Ran looked at each other and smiled. Luyu's strength here could be described as a dimensionality reduction. With his current strength, even if he went to a top domain battle team, he would be a member of the main force. With this kind of strength, participating in a new student competition was completely one-sided. At this time, Luyu had become the focus of the audience. Next was the second match of Group CED, Victorious Academy versus Star City University's Combat Class 6. The pace of this match was extremely fast. Star City University's Class 6 had no resistance in front of the Victorious Academy. It only took 5 minutes for the battle to end. Then it was the match of Group EF. In this match, Chilly Winter Academy's Combat Class 1 once again showed their violent side. Several students from the class they were fighting against had their heads smashed. Blood gushed out. The scene was very cruel. After watching this match, Fengqi turned to look at Lin Ran and said, "Isn't Chilly Winter Academy too violent?" Hearing this, Lin Ran was not surprised. He smiled and said, "On the day we entered the academy, the teacher told us a truth. As a warrior, we have to cultivate a fierce nature in our hearts. Only such warriors can withstand cruelty and maximize their strength. If you have a kind heart, don't enter Chilly Winter Academy. This is a paradise for beasts. Only the most ferocious beasts can have a place here." Hearing this, Fengqi was stunned. From these words, it could be seen how cruel the teaching environment of Chilly Winter Academy was. He suddenly remembered what the driver uncle from Star City High School had said. He said that the graduates he drove to Chilly Winter Academy had several girlfriends. He couldn't help but look at Lin Ran and say, "Aren't you a national idol in Chilly Winter Academy? How many girlfriends do you have?" Hearing this, Lin Ran couldn't help but be taken aback. "I don't have a girlfriend. Why are you asking this?" "Zero battle record trash." Feng Qi imitated the driver uncle's tone and said disdainfully. Lin Ran was speechless. At this time, the top 3 of the competition had been announced. Next was the drawing of lots. As the representative, Feng Qi came to the arena and began to draw lots. Unfortunately, he didn't draw a bye. This time, their opponent was Victorious Academy. As for Chilly Winter Academy's Muscle Man class, they drew a rotation break. Half an hour later, the broadcast sounded, and Lu Yu and the others walked onto the arena. Before the start of the battle, Kai Guo applied several buffs to Lu Yu. Xiao Long and the others surrounded Yang Xiaoxin and the others. Lu Yu was the main force in the charge. When the signal gun sounded, the battle began. This battle wasn't as easy as before. Every time Lu Yu, who didn't draw his sword, swept out sword energy, the captain of the victory class would use a talisman to freeze it. Then, his teammates would work together to disperse the sword energy. However, it wasn't that easy. When Lu Yu became serious and released dozens of sword energy attacks, the captain of the victory class decisively chose to admit defeat. When the referee announced the result of the match, there was a burst of applause and cheers outside the arena. However, there were no signs of riots. After this battle ended, Feng Qi felt very emotional in his heart. He realized that he had underestimated Lu Yu's current combat strength. This was the strength he displayed without drawing his sword. His dazzling performance made the other students who participated in the competition completely become foils. The happiest person was Monk. He didn't want to fight at all and looked like he was just waiting to die. The last match began after an hour of rest. Before the start of the final match, the medical staff began to check the bodies of Lu Yu and the others who had just finished the match and asked if they wanted to delay the start of the match. In response, Lu Yu and the others immediately said that they didn't need to. This was because they didn't use much energy from the beginning to the end. Naturally, they didn't need time to recover. When the 2 classes that had entered the final round stood on the stage, the audience erupted into enthusiastic cheers. The signal gun sounded, and the final match began. At this time, in addition to the audience, the live broadcast room was also very lively. Lu Yu's performance also shocked the audience in the live broadcast room. While they were shocked by Lu Yu's strength, they also cast their only popularity votes in the live broadcast room, pushing Lu Yu to the position of popularity king in the new student competition. In the 3 matches, Lu Yu single-handedly brought Star City University's combat class 3 to the finals. The audience in the live broadcast room called him godly teammate. Lu Yu was completely popular on the internet. The domain battle team leaders in the audience had already prepared to recruit Lu Yu. In the end, it was still Lu Yu's solo show. At the beginning of the battle, Chilly Winter Academy's combat class 1 still chose to fight in a group. They quickly closed in on Lu Yu, who was walking over. However, to everyone's surprise, not everyone rushed towards LVU. A group of people quickly separated from the group and ran towards the monk and the others. Seeing this scene, Su Hongyun clenched his fists, but Tyrant's face was pale. Chilly Winter Academy's combat strategy was very simple. If they couldn't beat Lu Yu, then beat up his teammates until they admitted defeat. As long as his teammates chose to admit defeat, Lu Yu would be powerless no matter how strong he was. Seeing this tactic, Feng Qi was also stunned. The next scene was extremely cruel. Tyrant and the other 9 were surrounded by a group of strong men and were punched and kicked. Seeing this scene, Lu Yu could only unleash his combat power and use his sword energy to knock out the Chilly Winter Academy students around him one by one. In order to buy time for Lu Yu, Tyrant and the others began to roll on the ground. The Chilly Winter Academy students naturally didn't dare to kill them, but they deliberately hit them where it hurt. They wanted to make them unable to endure and then choose to give up. At this time, Su Hongyun, who was beaten black and blue and couldn't speak clearly, looked at the students around him and said, "Brothers, we must not be a burden to Lu Yu. Let's go." Hearing this, everyone immediately clenched their teeth. At this time, the one with the most strength to shout was Tyrant. His shouts resounded throughout the arena. "Where the F*CK are you grabbing? F*CK you, believe it or not, I'll take it out and throw it at you. Whoever kicks my ass again, if your son doesn't have XX in the future, Buddha will curse your entire family. Brothers, please don't hit my face. I rely on this face to make a living." From being arrogant at the beginning to admitting defeat, and then to cursing. While Tyrant was being beaten, he kept fighting back with words, attracting a lot of firepower for his teammates. Finally, after struggling for a while, Lu Yu finished the battle and came to support, knocking out all the remaining members of Chili Winter Academy Class 1. At the end of the finals, the audience burst into warm applause. In this battle, Combat Class 3 could only be described as a Pyrrhic victory. Looking at Tyrant and the others who were being carried on stretchers with bruises all over their faces, Feng Qi felt ashamed. That was really tragic. P.S. The following words are not charged. Today, it's recommended. First, it's going to be 230 million words. Tomorrow, it will continue to be about 10,000 words. Next, it will be 2 chapters. I can't be lazy anymore. I hope everyone can come to Chidian Reading to support the original reading. Finally, I'm asking for subscriptions, monthly tickets, and also a reward. I want to be on the bestseller list tomorrow and see the scenery above. I don't know what position I can get on the bestseller list. Now, the average subscription is 6,200. I want to break the average subscription of 10,000 again. Please. Thank you. Chapter 202. The new student competition lasted for 3 days. But the last 2 days were meaningless to Feng Qi's Combat Class 3. They had already won the championship of this year's new student competition. The other 2 days were the ranking battles between the other participating classes, which had nothing to do with them. But Feng Qi paid attention to the following matches. On the first day of the competition, Lu Yu's brilliance overshadowed everyone. But in the next 2 days, there were also outstanding freshmen who showed their talents. They were the focus of Feng Qi's attention. After the third day of the competition, the ranking of the participating classes was announced, and an award ceremony was held. Feng Qi and the students of Combat Class 3 stepped onto the podium and received the championship medal of this year's new student competition from the principal of Victory Academy, adding a touch of color to his resume. Then it was the photo session. He took a photo with the principal with the other participating classes. He was busy for a long time before he had time to rest. When the award ceremony was over, a new round of trouble quickly appeared. Lu Yu was once again surrounded by the leaders of the major domain battle groups, who invited him to join them, even though he had been rejected before. The situation was the same this time. In the face of the invitation, Lu Yu was obviously very indifferent. He rejected all the domain battle groups that extended an olive branch, including Qin Shi's face-to-face invitation. In the end, the leaders of the various battle groups left regretfully. Back in his room, Feng Qi received a congratulatory call from Bai Fuxing. He could hear from the phone that Bai Fuxing was very happy at this time, and he happily chatted with Bai Fuxing for a long time. He was always grateful to Bai Fuxing. It had always been Bai Fuxing who had done everything for him, and now he had finally done something to bring glory to the academy. After hanging up the phone, he washed up and lay on the bed. As he thought about this, sleepiness overtook him, and he gradually drifted off to dreamland. When he woke up the next day, he first called Lin Ran and the others one by one, and then began to pack his luggage. After a while, he pushed his luggage out of the room. At this time, there were already several buses waiting on the road in front of the dormitory building. As they waited, Lin Ran and the others arrived one after another. After counting the number of people, he led everyone to one of the cars with his Star City University sticker and began to board. A moment later, the car drove out of Victory Academy. Looking at the scenery outside the window, Feng Qi was deep in thought. During this trip to Victory Academy, Apart from becoming the champion of the new student competition and obtaining a large sum of money, there were also other important gains. First of all, he had come into contact with Qin Shiguang and gained a preliminary understanding of her. In particular, he was very curious about the second hexagram that he had given himself. He planned to learn more about it in detail in the next future line. Next were the outstanding freshmen from the participating classes. They were all good seedlings that were worth nurturing. If he needed to form his own force in the future, they would be good candidates to be roped in. Of course, the premise was that they were trustworthy. The information on Victory Academy's side was limited. Since there were werewolves in Star City University, there might be some here as well. He wouldn't act rashly before he figured out the details. After a few hours of travel, the car drove into a special passage and then turned into a special airport. After boarding the plane and waiting for about an hour, the other participating classes of Star City University also arrived. In the face of the congratulations from the other two teachers, Feng Qi humbly returned a smile. It could be seen that these two teachers were also very happy that their class could win the championship. In Star City University, they might be competitors, but outside of Star City University, they represented the face of Star City University. Combat Class 3 won the championship, and this honor also belonged to them. A moment later, the plane took off. Through the window, the Victory City in his line of sight gradually shrunk and was finally covered by clouds. This part of the journey came to an end. History's evaluation of him also had a few more colors. After returning to Star City University, Feng Qi saw the banner posted at the school gate. "Welcome back, champion." After passing the gate guard's verification, the car drove into the school and finally stopped in front of the dormitory building. After getting off the car and saying goodbye to Lin Ran and the others, he first went back to the dormitory to put down his luggage. Then he directly left the dormitory and went to the principal's office to find Bai Fuxing. After reporting to him, he returned to the dormitory. At this time, the effect of the overlapping memories had mostly faded. He planned to enter the future dream again. This time, the goal of the future was clear, but there were two problems that needed to be solved. First, understand the truth behind Min Kan's massacre. Second, get in touch with Murakami and understand the secrets related to her. After clarifying the goal of this trip, he went to the refrigerator and took out the ingredients to brew the sake one by one. The next step was to brew the sake according to the steps. He was already familiar with these steps, but he was still very careful during the brewing process to ensure that there wouldn't be any low-level mistakes that would lead to monetary losses. This time, the brewing process was very smooth. A few hours later, the glass bottle next to the apparatus was filled with blue liquid. After tidying up and carefully cleaning the apparatus, he took the glass bottle and walked to the sofa to sit down. He then unscrewed the cap and drank a third of the liquid. The effect of the medicine took effect. He summoned the attribute panel and saw that the energy progress bar began to jump. After a while, Feng Qi's expression gradually became peaceful as he lay on the sofa. The moment he woke up, a strong sense of weakness welled up in his heart. It was as if he had been soaked in water for a long time and suddenly felt the heaviness of his body when he came ashore. Narrator. In response to his call, the narrator didn't answer. Then, after he failed to switch his body, he was clear about one thing. A new timeline had been created. He was the warrior of this timeline. Sitting on the sofa in silence for a long time, a touch of determination appeared in his eyes. Coming to the desk, he began to plan and arrange his future in detail. Everything was based on the other him providing information. The main direction of this timeline was to join Min Kan, so he couldn't affect the formation of Min Kan, let alone affect the future development of Mu Qing. At the same time, his strength was greatly reduced, and he needed to go to the Scarlet Institute to strengthen himself. As he kept writing, he made detailed plans for his future. After he finished planning, he took out his phone and dialed the monk's number. After a while, the call went through. The monk's slightly surprised voice came through. "Brother Qi, what's the matter? Where are you now?" "In my room. I'm coming over. I have something to talk to you about." "Okay." After he hung up, he stood up and left the room. After he walked out of the dormitory, he walked toward the monk's dormitory number 3. After a while, he arrived at the monk's door and knocked on the door. He heard a series of footsteps approaching quickly, and then the door was opened. "Brother Chi, come in." Feng Chi didn't hesitate and immediately followed the monk into the room. Just as he expected, the monk's room was very messy. Items were everywhere, and there were a few pairs of different colored slippers on the ground. He came to the sofa and sat down. At this time, the monk scratched his shiny head under the light and looked at him curiously. "Brother Chi, why are you looking for me?" "Monk, are you going to continue pretending with me?" "Pretending for what?" The monk was stunned and revealed a confused look. "As someone from the Prajna Domain's battle group, you have always shown outsiders the side of you that you're just waiting to die. It must be very tiring to pretend every day, right?" Feng Chi asked with a smile. "Brother Chi, I'm from Golden Immortal Temple, and my background is the Prajna Domain's battle group. Isn't that public information? You should have already obtained my information when you came to teach. Why are you suddenly saying that I'm pretending?" The monk said with a puzzled expression. Seeing that the monk was still unwilling to admit it, he couldn't help but grin. He wanted to see how long the monk could pretend. If it weren't for the memories of the previous future line, he wouldn't have thought that the monk was a companion who was lurking in the dark. Looking at the monk, he pondered for a moment before saying, "We're fellow companions. We are in the same profession, and we are all working towards the same goal. You also like the temptation of uniforms?" The monk asked curiously. Feng Chi was rendered speechless. Looking at the monk, he realized that he couldn't easily make the monk reveal the truth. The monk's disguise didn't reveal itself even when he chose to reveal his secret. It was clear how much the monk valued him and the secret behind him, and the hidden information was exactly what he wanted to know. However, he wouldn't force the monk to reveal anything. Following that, he told the monk about the secret of his numerous transmigrations, including the encounter before his execution. "Back then, I asked you why you were hiding it. You told me that you didn't ask." Upon hearing Feng Chi's recount, the monk's expression finally changed. But just as Feng Chi thought that there was a turning point, the monk suddenly laughed foolishly. "Brother Chi, your story is really interesting." He took a deep look at the monk. He knew that the monk definitely had his concerns and was doubtful of his words. After all, what he said was a future that had yet to happen. Perhaps it was the same for the previous timelines. Even though the monk knew such a shocking truth, he didn't choose to believe him easily. From this, he suddenly understood why the monk would come to send him off before his execution in the future line. At that time, the monk's face was filled with sadness and realization. Perhaps the monk at that time truly believed him and knew that he had never lied. P.S. There are several chapters related to this. The first time is in chapter 57. Looking at the monk, he took a deep breath and said, "Monk, I've never lied to you. If you're willing to tell me the truth one day, you can contact me at any time." With that said, he stood up and prepared to leave. At this moment, the smile on the monk's face disappeared as he suddenly sighed. "Brother Chi, can you answer a few questions for me first?" When Feng Chi heard that, he sat down again and nodded. "Ask away." "You transmigrated time and time again in an attempt to save human civilization that is bound to perish. Is it worth it?" "It's worth it." Feng Chi nodded. "Give me a more detailed explanation," the monk pressed. Faced with the question, he fell silent for a long time. There were many ways to answer this question. However, there was only one answer in his heart. With this in mind, a smile appeared on his face as he looked at the monk. "My teacher once taught me that even if we humans are as insignificant as ants in the face of a domain calamity, there will still be people among us who will stand up and look up at the starry sky in search of a chance of survival in the future. It's also because of these people that our civilization can continue. Now that time has come, it's time for someone to continue standing up and opening up a new path for our civilization. So, why can't that person be me?" Looking at the determination in Feng Chi's eyes, the monk's eyes flickered. He was influenced. It was just as Feng Chi had said. Throughout history, there will always be people who stand up and look up at the starry sky. Even if we are as insignificant as ants, we will still choose to resist and fight for a chance of survival. After taking a deep breath, the monk calmed himself down and said, Brother Chi, I've always thought that you were a peerless genius. Now, I realize that I was wrong. As a pathfinder, you could be considered a pioneer of the human race. Upon hearing this, Feng Chi smiled and waved his hand. That's not important. Have you decided to tell me the truth now? At this moment, the monk, who had been unwilling to admit it, finally nodded. Chapter 203. Sitting on the sofa, Feng Chi waited for the monk to tell him his secret. At this moment, the monk looked at him and asked, Brother Chi, since you know that I'm from the Golden Immortal Temple, do you know where the Great Wisdom Battle Group under the Golden Immortal Temple is active? He naturally knew the answer to this question. As for his 10 students, he had a detailed understanding of the forces behind each of them. So he immediately nodded. Of course I know. It's in the battle group supply area outside Old City. With that area, as the center, attack the nearby domains. That's also one of the areas where many battle groups are active. That's right. Our battle group is the strongest battle group in that supply area. We often lead the other battle groups to carry out joint operations. So far, we have dispelled a total of 103 domains. We've come into contact with many domain transcendents, so we've long known that there are domain transcendents lurking in human society. We even have several domain transcendents imprisoned in our secret base. We've learned a lot of secret information from them. Naturally, this also includes the domain forces lurking in human society. As for why we didn't announce this secret to the world, just as you said before, the world needs hope, but the truth will only bring despair. In the end, there will only be two outcomes. First, the human civilization will not accept the status quo and declare war with the domain forces, accelerating their destruction. Second, live an ignoble life with unwillingness and despair for the future. No matter what the outcome is, it's not what we want to see. We believe that only by giving the world hope can there be a possibility of a miracle. Hearing this, Feng Chi couldn't help but nod. The thoughts of the Great Wisdom Battle Group were very similar to the Scarlet Institute. They both knew the truth, but they were unwilling to show the truth to the world. They chose to lurk in the dark and find a way out for the human civilization. Then why did you come to Star City University to study? What are you planning? The monk pondered for a moment, then continued. 16 years ago, when our second Great Wisdom Battle Group was exploring a domain in the eastern part of the city, we encountered an illusory domain creature that looked like a shadow. At that time, it encountered our second Great Wisdom Battle Group and engaged in a life-and-death battle. Hearing about the shadow domain creature, Feng Chi immediately thought of the shadow force behind the Science and Technology Research Institute. However, he did not interrupt and continued to listen to the monk. In this battle, only 2 rookies from our Second Legion survived. The Second Legion's commander and members were all sacrificed. When they returned, the 2 rookies brought back a crystal. At that time, our main team's analysis team began to study this crystal. At first, we only thought that this crystal was a special spiritual material that had not been discovered by humans at this stage. However, the subsequent discoveries made us aware of a big secret. This crystal is actually a special tool used to transmit information. It contains some important information. After several months of deciphering, we obtained this information and also understood the power behind the Black Shadow and the domain creature. At this point, a dark look appeared in the monk's eyes. Brother Chi, what do you think about the growth potential of humans compared to domain creatures? In the face of the question, Feng Chi pondered for a moment and said, we can't compare to those domain powers with great potential for growth, but we are still stronger than many races with weak domain powers. However, in terms of creativity, we humans don't seem to be weaker than any domain powers. This is also the reason why we humans can catch up. We only lack time to develop. Upon hearing this, the monk shook his head. We once thought so too, but in this information, we saw a domain force with limitless potential. Their growth potential is far from what we humans can compare to. We call this race the psionic race. After taking a deep breath, the monk continued. The most terrifying thing about this race is that they can continuously stack their knowledge reserves. Their body structure is almost completely composed of psionic matter. The consciousness of all their race members is connected to the Holy Spirit, and they have extremely terrifying creativity. What is the Holy Spirit? He immediately asked. The consciousness of this race is similar to the information storage database in our human society, but it's far from that simple. For example, every time a newborn of the psionic race is born, its consciousness will connect with the Holy Spirit and then obtain the memories and knowledge of its ancestors. The moment it is born, the psionic race's warriors are top-notch geniuses. It's the same for every generation. The accumulation of knowledge from generation to generation. The creativity of this race is unimaginable. What's more terrifying is that other than the memories of their ancestors, if the members of this race want to obtain knowledge, they only need to extract it directly from the Holy Spirit. It's similar to how we download information from the internet. In fact, it's even simpler than how we download information from the internet. After the download is successful, they can master the ability they want to obtain. For example, if I don't know how to drive and want to learn how to drive now, my consciousness can connect with the Holy Spirit's information database to search for relevant information and then choose to download it. After the download is completed, I will instantly learn this skill. I can even be as skilled as a veteran driver who has driven for decades. Hearing this, Feng Qi sucked in a breath of cold air. If what the monk said was true, the potential of this race was truly unimaginable. Such an enemy was simply too despairing. The communication crystal that we seized is a tool used by this race to communicate with each other. We also learned an important piece of information from it. The psionic race is looking for something in human society. What is it? Feng Qi hurriedly asked. This question had been bothering him for a long time. He really couldn't understand why those domain-level races would station themselves in human civilization and plan for the future when they clearly had the ability to destroy human civilization. What exactly were they plotting? After analyzing the information in the crystal, we learned that there was a traitor in the psionic race who took away a supreme treasure of this race. The psionic race is now sending people to search for the traitor and the people who escaped with him. It's very likely that this traitor force is now hiding in human society. Upon hearing this, Feng Qi immediately asked, "Do you know what that supreme treasure is?" Facing the question, the monk shook his head. "I only know that the psionic race calls this item a miracle." Miracle? Yes. In order to understand what a miracle is, we interrogated the domain transcendental creatures imprisoned in the Prajna base. We obtained another important piece of information from them. Miracle is a general term used by various domain forces for divine items. This item can change the fate of a race and also allow them to obtain power comparable to God's. Tell me in detail, Feng Qi immediately said. For example, the psionic race's Holy Spirit. This consciousness database that can connect the memories of all their people is a type of miracle. In the past, according to the imprisoned domain transcendence, the psionic race wasn't as powerful as they are now. However, they accidentally obtained a miracle, the Holy Spirit. Since then, this race has rapidly risen. The new generation is always stronger than the previous generation. It only took them a few hundred years to develop to their current state. Therefore, we suspected that the supreme treasure that the psionic race valued so much was very likely another miracle. However, this miracle had just been obtained, and before it could be sent back to the race, it was taken away by the psionic traitor and his followers who were escorting the miracle. Upon hearing this, Feng Qi had many doubts. From the monk's words, he could glean a lot of information. For example, the domain forces were searching for miracles. This was a super divine item that could change the fate of a race. However, the question was, why would the domain forces lurk in human society? Could it be that miracles exist in human society? Thinking of this, he immediately asked this question. Facing the question, the monk shook his head. This is also a question that has always troubled us. What exactly is a miracle? Why are they lurking in human society in search of miracles? At this moment, Feng Qi suddenly thought of Murakami. When he read Murakami's memory fragments, He had also seen Murakami muttering, "Miracles," and searching everywhere for miracles. The difference was that the miracle Murakami mentioned was a human. The miracle mentioned by the domain forces was obviously some kind of item. After connecting the information of the shadow forces, psionic powers, miracles, and other information together, an idea popped up in his mind. A guess suddenly appeared in his mind. Was it possible that the psionic race's defectors were the shadow forces behind the Science and Technology Research Institute? As a psionic race, they had extremely high creative abilities. Therefore, the Science and Technology Research Institute's skill tree quickly climbed and developed a series of super technologies, such as psionic technology. As for the supreme treasure taken away by the defectors, he suspected that it was Xiao He. The narrator had guessed that the material used to create Xiao He was definitely a super material that did not exist in the real world. Thinking of this, he connected the dots in his mind. After the shadow obtained a miracle, some kind of super material, it led a group of trusted aides to betray its own race and lurk in the Science and Technology Research Institute. In the end, it infiltrated the Science and Technology Research Institute and became its force. It decided to use the miracle in its hands to create a super weapon in the future. And that super weapon was Xiao He. Looking at the timeline, this point of view was also completely valid. The monk said that the psionic race had defected 16 years ago. When he read Lu Ping An's memories, the memory images showed that Lu Ping An's parents had joined the shadow forces around the same time. At that time, Lu Ping An was still young. From his age, it could be traced back to the time. Therefore, the shadow had controlled the Science and Technology Research Institute for more than 10 years. Its appearance allowed the Science and Technology Research Institute's technology to improve rapidly, surpassing the Future Research Institute in one fell swoop and becoming the #1 facade of the future city. Therefore, he had every reason to suspect that the domain forces behind the Science and Technology Research Institute were the psionic race's traitors. If this guess was valid, the material used to create Xiao He was obviously the psionic race's lost treasure, which was also a miracle. This also explained why the created Xiao He was so powerful. After all, this was a divine object that was comparable to the Holy Spirit Information Vault that could change the fate of the psionic race. However, there were still many unexplainable problems in these intelligence clues. Why did the domain forces hide in human civilization to search for miracles? Even if Xiao He was created by miracles, why did it chase after him? Monk, didn't you ask the imprisoned domain transcendent creatures why they were hiding in our human civilization to search for miracles? We did. Several of them were tortured to death during this period, but they couldn't tell us the reason. According to them, they were just a weak race. They infiltrated human civilization just to follow the strong races in the domain and serve them in exchange for miracle-derived items from the strong races, such as the miracle stone, the miracle liquid, and so on. When he heard about the miracle stone, he immediately remembered the 2 blood-colored miracle stones that the assassin had given him. From the information provided by the monk, the alliance of the weak races in the domain was obviously also a wage earner. They served the strong races in exchange for items like the miracle stone. Therefore, there was a timeline where it made sense that he was betrayed. After all, these weak races in the domain were serving the strong races. They naturally wouldn't let go of his information in exchange for benefits. What do you mean by miracle-derived items? It's a special material that dropped from miracles. It also has various miraculous effects. Our Wisdom Battle Group once obtained some miracle liquid. After drinking it, our injuries were quickly healed. It even helped with the efficiency of our training in the future. No wonder the various domain forces are scrambling for miracles. This thing is really good. After listening to the monk's explanation, he immediately nodded. Right, you haven't told us why you came to Star City University. We also want to search for miracles. Since miracles can make the psionic race leap from an ordinary force to a strong race in the domain, we feel that as long as we find miracles, we can also change our human civilization and obtain the powerful strength bestowed by miracles. There are miracles in Star City University? Feng Chi couldn't help but be stunned. No, we haven't even completely figured out what miracles are. How can we know where miracles are hidden? However, our clues led us to a new student who was detected to have a special energy in his body during the physical examination. Originally, this matter wouldn't have attracted much attention, but during that period of time, our Sanskrit battle group was investigating this issue. When we received this report, we immediately sent out professionals to analyze the collected data. Then, we suppressed this matter, and I personally came to investigate. What kind of energy is it? The monk took out his phone. After entering the password, he searched for an image and then pointed the phone screen at him. On the image was a seemingly complicated black mark. It was a bit similar to a formation diagram. Feng Qi immediately recognized the origin of this image. It was the death mark used by the domain forces behind the Science and Technology Research Institute to control their subordinates. He suddenly realized who the monk's target was. Your target is Lu Ping, and that's right. The psionic race's range of activity is an old city, but a similar mark pattern has also appeared in Star City. We have reason to suspect that the psionic race who defected back then is in Star City. Our Wisdom battle group isn't a match for the psionic race, so it's naturally impossible for us to snatch the miracle from them. Therefore, our plan is very simple. Find the psionic race who defected and snatch the miracle from them. After listening to the monk's explanation, he understood. The information provided by the monk made him understand that his guess was right. The domain forces behind the Science and Technology Research Institute were the defected psionic race forces. In that case, why didn't you leave after Lu Ping died? Faced with the question, the monk sighed. Lu Ping and sudden death was completely out of my expectations. It also alarmed me. At that time, I thought that the psionic race forces had found this place and were preparing to take action against the defected forces. Naturally, I had to lay low. Even if it wasn't the psionic race, Lu Ping and's death must have alerted the psionic race forces behind him. Recently, their attention will definitely be on Star City University. If I were to leave at this time, I would be alerting the enemy. Therefore, I originally planned to stay for another half a year or a year before finding an excuse to drop out of school and leave. I see. So in order not to attract anyone's attention, you've been disguising yourself and trying your best to keep a low profile? Brother Qi, I've never disguised myself. I've always been this casual, the monk said with a grin. Feng Qi was rendered speechless. After hearing the monk's explanation, many of his doubts were answered. However, many new questions arose. What exactly was a miracle? Why did the domain forces hide in human society to search for miracles? Was the miracle mentioned by Murakami related to the miracle mentioned by the domain forces? Why would Little Black, who was made from miraculous materials, be so fixated on him? At this thought, he couldn't help but suspect. Could the narration also be a miracle? According to the monk's explanation, miracles could be all kinds of substances. For example, the miracle of the psionic race's Holy Spirit was some kind of consciousness information bank. The miracle material used to make Xiao He was definitely a substance that was almost indestructible and could switch between reality and illusion. Therefore, the almost illusory narration could completely be a miracle. Or rather, he who had the ability to travel through timelines might have obtained some kind of miraculous ability. However, he had no way of knowing the answer to this question. He had asked the narration before, but it seemed that the narration didn't even know what it was. In the end, all the questions pointed to one point. What was the general trend that the various domain forces desperately wanted to become stronger to deal with? As the information increased, many puzzles were solved and new questions arose. He could only hope that this timeline wouldn't lead to an untimely death. He hoped that he could come into contact with Murakami and learn more secrets and truth from her. Chapter 204. During the conversation with the monk, Feng Qi learned a lot of new information, other than the psionic race and miracle. The monk also told him about the information that the Prajna Domain's battle group was investigating. This information also came from the communication crystal that was cracked at the time. There is also a piece of news in its frowny face that bloodthirsty lunatic has arrived. It seems to want to revive its dead clansmen. For this, it will do anything. Try to avoid contact with it as much as possible. The analysts of the Prajna Domain's battle group suspected that the lunatic mentioned by the psionic race might be a new hidden force in the domain. And this force was something that even the powerful psionic race was afraid of. For this reason, the Prajna Domain's battle group started an investigation in this area. They want to know what kind of new force appeared as soon as possible. But the clues in this area were limited, so the investigation had reached a bottleneck. The sky outside was getting brighter. The two people who had been chatting all night said goodbye. When a monk asked if this timeline could provide him with any help, Feng Qi rejected it. Because in this timeline, his goal was to join Lu Min Can. Before that, he had to hide and endure until the day Lu Min Can was established. If he started some side missions, he might face the danger of dying young if he wasn't careful. To be safe, it was better to hide. But it wasn't like he didn't have any follow-up plans. After leaving the dormitory, the morning fog outside was hazy, and the temperature had clearly dropped today. After losing his innate ability, he felt a chill in his thin clothes. Then he went to the cafeteria to eat breakfast, and then went to Bai Fuxing's office. After explaining to Bai Fuxing that he needed to take a few months off to research virtual games, he left Star City University. Next stop, Scarlet Institute. If this timeline could really join Lu Min Can, increasing his strength would be very important. Apart from that, increasing his strength would also give him the ability to protect himself. After a few hours of travel, the taxi stopped in front of the metal wall outside the Scarlet Institute. After paying the fare, he stood outside the metal wall at the identification area. After a green light swept past, the metal wall slowly opened. Since he had already registered his identity in the Scarlet Institute and obtained the highest level of authority, he no longer needed to contact Vivian to pick him up. He came to the metal gate of the base, and, after verifying his identity again, he walked into the base through the tunnel. The metal door behind him closed automatically. When he saw Vivian again, she was wearing the Scarlet Institute's uniform. Her head was lowered as she looked at the creatures in the culture tank. She was so focused that she didn't even notice his arrival. Sister Wei. Hearing his shout, Wei Wei turned her head to look at him with a surprised expression. After a brief moment of shock, a smile appeared on her face. You came at this time, yet you didn't inform me in advance. It seems like a new timeline has been created. Smart. He nodded. When Vivian heard this, she put down her workstation, stood up, and took off her gloves. Next, let's have a meeting. At the meeting, let's talk about your arrangements for this timeline. All right. A moment later, Feng Qi arrived at the highest conference room and sat down at the seat marked with his name. Looking at the Scarlet Institute's upper echelons, he began to talk about his plans for this timeline. His idea was simple. Before Mu Qing established the Lu Min Can, he would not participate in any side missions. He would focus on improving his own strength. He would stay until the establishment of the Lu Min Can and the appearance of Murakami. After he finished explaining his arrangements, the Scarlet Institute's upper echelons started to discuss his ideas. After a few hours of discussion, the Scarlet Institute's director stood up and announced in a deep voice, "The meeting is over. The meeting has ended. From now on, we will all be fellow travelers of this timeline, fighting for the future." After saying that, the old director suddenly looked at him. Then, he clenched his right fist and patted his heart twice. Seeing this gesture, Feng Qi was stunned. Then, he raised his right hand and patted his heart twice. When the other Scarlet Institute's upper echelon saw this, they did the same. This gesture was the same one that was created together with the Breaking Dawn flag when the organization was established. When he chose to confess the secret to the Scarlet Institute, he had briefly mentioned it, but he didn't expect the old director and the Scarlet Institute's upper echelons to still remember it. After following Vivian back to her private laboratory, Feng Qi couldn't help but ask curiously, "Why did you use Breaking Dawn's gesture?" Facing the question, a charming smile appeared on Vivian's face. The old director said that the Breaking Dawn organization you created isn't a force, but a spirit. That's why the Breaking Dawn flag can continue to fly 1,500 years later. So, our Scarlet Institute can also be a member of Breaking Dawn? Li Xingqian can also be a member of Breaking Dawn and other peers that appear in the future. Even if we're not in the same force, we're all members of Breaking Dawn. Perhaps we've all chosen different paths, but our goals are the same. After hearing Vivian's explanation, Feng Qi felt a warm current in his heart. The reason why there was still hope in this world filled with despair was because these peers chose to advance. When are you going to start the rune modification plan? This time, I've planned 2 brand new plans, Vivian asked with a smile. Anytime. Tell me about the plans you've prepared this time. Vivian immediately came to the desk and tapped on the screen a few times before the relevant information appeared. Choose for yourself. He looked at the screen. There were introductions for the 4 rune modification plans on the screen. He was familiar with the first 2 options. They were Ominous Shadow and Demonic Dragon. Among them, Ominous Shadow was his previous choice of sacrifice. Not only did it increase his physical strength, but it also gave him the ability to liquefy his body and move stealthily. Other than these 2 options, there were 2 more modification options in the information. They were Lava Beast and Death Mantis. The Lava Beast specialty was its extremely high defense and long vitality. The Death Mantis' specialty was its extremely explosive power, and its attack was extremely lethal. The information also clearly stated the possible hidden dangers of these 2 modifications, especially the Lava Beast modification. After the modification, it was very likely to change its life characteristics and become a life form that combined with ores. For modification options, how should he choose? He fell into deep thought. After thinking for a while, he turned his head and looked at Vivian. Sister Wei, you know this better than me. Which modification do you think is more suitable? In the previous sacrifice line, you chose to establish the Breaking Dawn organization and secretly fight against the Science and Technology Research Institute. Naturally, it's better to choose Ominous Shadow, which has the ability to move stealthily. But in this timeline, you've decided to join Lamin Can. Then, the main choice is to increase your overall strength. I recommend Demonic Dragon. This modification is also perfectly compatible with your muscle type fighting style. After listening to Vivian's recommendation, Feng Qi immediately nodded. Then let's do the Demonic Dragon modification. Give me a gene enhancement injection first. I'll arrange it for you. Go wait in the genetic laboratory first. Vivian nodded with a smile and walked out of the private laboratory. He was already very familiar with the Scarlet Institute. At this time, he also walked out of the private laboratory and went to the genetic modification room. While waiting, Vivian arrived with a gene needle that was modified according to his body's data. The first round of body strengthening had begun. In the following days, Feng Qi began to adapt to the body strengthened by the gene fluid. In order to better withstand the after effects of the rune modification, he also began high-intensity daily training. This kind of training could easily destroy his body. But fortunately, the Scarlet Institute had a recovery chamber. After each high-intensity training, it could quickly help him recover his body's condition. Then he could start a new round of training. His body's strength was also significantly improved during the training. After training like this for a month, Vivian arranged for him to do a detailed examination of his body's data. But the results were unexpected. His current body strength was still not compatible with the Demonic Dragon's rune crystal. If he forcefully implanted it, there was a possibility of death. The simulation gave a death probability of 68%. Although the simulation results were not necessarily accurate, it was clearly not suitable to continue the modification with such a high risk probability. So after the physical examination, Feng Qi began a new round of training. The high-intensity training day after day was very boring, but in Feng Qi's eyes, this kind of difficulty was not a challenge at all. He always believed that only by persisting in the direction of his ideal, flowers would bloom behind him, leaving behind a fragrance for future generations. The monk said that he was a human pioneer, but he preferred to call himself a pathfinder. He was a pathfinder who dreamed of the prosperity of the human race. In the following days, under the high-intensity training day after day, his body's data increased significantly. Another month later, When he finished a series of body tests again, his body's data was close to matching the demonic dragon's rune crystal. But to be on the safe side, Vivian said that he still had to continue training to improve his body's strength. In this regard, Vivian's explanation was, "Do you know how important you are? If the rune modification on you fails, it would be too cruel for us in this timeline. You can change the future, which also proves that our fate in this timeline is controlled by ourselves. But if you die, what's the point of us being able to see the future at a glance?" When she said this to him, Vivian had dark circles under her eyes. Her eyes were tired but firm. In order to eliminate any possible risks, Vivian led the team to continuously carry out simulation modification experiments in the past 2 months, often staying up late to study. At that moment, Feng-Chi once again felt the burden on his shoulders. In the future was the path of salvation. He was no longer alone, but he also shouldered the expectations of his peers in every timeline for the future. After the data report came out, Vivian injected him with the second dose of diluted gene fluid. In the next month, he once again devoted himself to high-intensity training. In the continuous training, he found that he gradually adapted to this training method. Every time he sweated profusely and was exhausted to the point of collapse. What followed was a hearty pleasure. At this time, he suddenly thought of the muscle growth path mentioned by the narration. He felt that perhaps this growth path was indeed very suitable for him. After 3 months of training, when he once again completed a series of physical tests, he finally reached the standard line. After a day of rest and preparation, the rune modification began. Lying on the operating table again, Feng-Chi was prepared to endure the pain in his heart. After Vivian and the modification staff of the gene department were ready, they activated the equipment on the operating table. The metal belt automatically restrained his body, tightly confining him to the operating table. Closing his eyes, the bright light penetrated his eyelids, reflecting his vision red. When the intense pain hit him, his muscles trembled. He did not make a sound, choosing to use his will to resist the pain that invaded his body. In addition to the physical pain, his spiritual world was also eroded by the demonic dragon's rune crystals. It was as if he had suddenly fallen into endless darkness. There was no light, no sound. All he could feel was a boundless, deathly stillness. Time seemed to have stopped. Every minute and every second in this world was torture. The demonic dragon's modification lasted for an entire day. During this time, Feng-Chi's body was injected with a large amount of energy fluid for reconciliation, as well as nutrient fluid to replenish his body's consumption. During this process, Feng-Chi's willpower moved all the Scarlet staff who participated in the modification. They could clearly feel Feng-Chi's desire to live. It also made them understand that even if some pain was beyond the endurance of the body, willpower could resist any pain, especially the spiritual will in his heart. No pain could ever shake it. When a modification was completed, Vivian's voice sounded. Feng-Chi slowly opened his eyes. He bent down and looked down. He found that there was a black rune crystal embedded in his chest. This rune crystal was beating slowly like a heart, surrounded by bulging blood vessels that were connected to the part of the crystal embedded in his body. Energy was transmitted through these blood vessels to the whole body. Every time the demonic dragon crystal beat, there would be a warm current. "Thank you for your hard work." At this time, Feng-Chi turned his head to look at Wei Wei and the group of staff. Looking at their tired faces and sweat-soaked clothes, he sincerely thanked them. Hearing this, Vivian smiled and waved her hand. "You're the one who has worked the hardest. Rest well for a day, then do the adaptive training. After a physical examination later, we'll go back and rest. It's too tiring." "Okay." He nodded immediately. To be on the safe side, Vivian and the staff began to check his body. After confirming that his body was fine for the time being, Vivian left the laboratory with the staff of the Scarlet Gene Department. Feng-Chi also returned to his room after they left. He went to the bathroom, washed the blood off his body, changed into his pajamas, and lay on the bed. After the modification, he was not used to his strength. Just now, when he was brushing his teeth, he accidentally crushed the cup and even fell on his back in the bathroom. This kind of change obviously needed to be adjusted through adaptive training. At this stage, he was still in the initial stage of fusion with the demonic dragon crystal, so the demonic dragon's ability had not appeared yet. However, the infusion of power was happening in real time. In fact, with every breath he took, his strength would grow by a bit. Thinking about this, he lay on the bed, exhausted, and soon fell asleep. In the dream, he led the human race in its heyday to fight against thousands of domain forces. After being suppressed for countless 1,500 years, he finally welcomed an evenly matched war. With pride in his heart, he clenched his fists and resolutely ran toward the endless enemies. At this moment, my heart still yearns for she. Even if I die 9 times, I have no regrets. Chapter 205. Anti-Theft Chapter. Support original version to read on Cheatian app. This chapter was automatically modified at 5:50 p.m. His own strength endowed with the heavens was also the dragon demon's evil chi seal and the heavenly leftover 10 butts that were refined afterwards. The Matterbirth domain's valiant and powerful solid body is pure. Its power and ability is special. Each kind of Matterbirth domain's leader does not have any dragon, devil, or evil. It seems like he has the resources to provide for Ti Wei. Shan Jian, who had been injured in the blink of an eye, was able to heal him to the extreme. His pain was so great that it was even more shocking. The sharpness of the weapon and the type of the spell each blocked it, making the bodies valiant. Duan Shou's attack was focused on close-quarters combat. Dian Ti's long mo, Xie, was extremely powerful. Its speed, its power, the thick layer of its surface was covered with its surface. I'm afraid it can be even more ferocious. However, during the period of the physics department's dragon storm, the Luo Ho was similar to the form of the physics department. It was 30 meters tall, with an integrated body. According to the report, the number of evil dragon demons that have been researched and analyzed include the Intercourt Research Red Scarlet, the Research Advancement Research Red Scarlet, and the evil dragon demons that have been dragged by corpses. Joru, you have the first place in the Earth Division. You have a team battle, but you haven't done it in 10 years. It seems like I have to make up my mind. I'll wait for you. I'll learn from you. Kuman Inoki had been looking at her for the first time when she saw the drunken crowd. The city star of a big school goes out with a slow pace and a big backpack on his back. Li Xing drags the lust of the night in the clear and goes to the back of the ecstasy. He laughed heartily and stood up as soon as he touched his cup. When the Tao is cursing and laughing, this is long Xia. Here, let's drink some wine. Jean F.A., why are you still in the team battle area? You gave us the position of commander. Team battle area commander is you, but this, please don't be us. Raise your hand, Lil Yang. I'll take the first order from the chief steward. The Taoist cup of wine is also raised at the same time as the great Cloudbeard. Do you want to be in a long line with me? Long line Moo. Draining and drinking a cup of wine. The inner cup will also be clear, Moo said. Let's toast to the vice president of the Grand Assembly. Good. A smile appeared on Qing Moo's face as she answered with certainty. Even if she didn't look for it, it was still outside the realm. Every single one of them was only a stone crystal rune. In the inner field, the evil of evil is broken by halberds. In the group battle, there are 2 famous branches. In the field, there are scattered people. Daowen chased after Qing Mu. The response was, "This is you. Let's drink a cup of wine and talk about it. Cheers to my wine glass." Thank you, senior leader team. Raising a cup of wine, raising a smiling chess seal, and asking the opposite side, "Do you want to give a position to the vice captain?" I have to remember the years of the agreement. Chess, go to watch the chess seal the head of the dynasty, turns suddenly her in this to say. In the group battle, the leader of the group battle, 1.5 a year, 1 in the group battle, the leader of the group battle, 1 in addition to me, in the present is not only the leader of the group battle, there is a real me. Now, gradually training in the period of time, the ability of the dragon devil in the training. Page 1 of the magnificent waves opened and lifted this, giving birth to a strange legend of her. Cheng Zheng's new body is already turned around. Thank you, the sentence read lightly. Her mouth, we friends don't send it to the front to look again. Feeling drunk, there is a center, she is still drunk. In the past, the words on the stone tablet are big for Fu Shui Cheng Xing, engraved a look. She is not full of the center of her, the feeling of falling slippery. We friends don't wave her and look. Arriving as expected, as I the strength of my own self-building group. You day one has not come as a result. Come and laugh with Yi Qing Mu. Friends who are chatting are here to listen. Dao coaxing with Long Xia. This time it is the first place of the group battle, the strength of the elder sister Shui Qing Mu. The group battle Big 10, fuck. Rest well, you wait for us, the first place of the ground. You have the group battlefield leader, 10 have not found me. In the group battlefield, the first place of the group battle to say is not your first time. You have to remember me, elder sister Shui Qing Mu. When the Tao laughed and dyed the forest here, condensing some time one atmosphere. Reading a book and digging a human's work, under the oath, immediately the academy began to observe the rules. At the same time, we were treated well and enjoyed our privileges. Because the original owner of the academy City Star, honored the surname by Nei Chung. In fact, Gao Qi led the death. The member of the Fu Shui Cheng Xing rushed forward. Many good tactile touches the student won, and chess seal, the conversation of the table wall, separated by listening. Year 1 earn, year 1 live. After the group battlefield leader joined, fighting ferociously, digging people in order to decide on my Tian Na Fu Shui Cheng Xing to join. Do you have some sense of righteousness? This thinking. Percent 51 is the third place of the year. Percent 4281 is the second place of the year. Percent 3232 is the first place of the year. After the death of the leader of the Fu Shui Cheng Xing, after the group battlefield leader entered, every year knows you. There are only a few good people, the front of the battle line side by side, this day and today AI. With the good brother, the most Fu Shui Cheng Xing and I am you, exhausting the life of you to listen to hope not me. Live well. Rong Dong Ji for chess seal order is more, the conversation of the table wall separated. Sentimental parting with rebuke is the end of the season. Come without talking, next month in the crowd, the song will be heard late. Next sit with also see chess seal. Next sit in the table meal, this dyed forest. Research to make my echo shadow more. The brain echoes the shadow of the wine is finished. Not drinking all my time, the wine breaks the rule tonight, eat one. Will you do long do family big? Dao should return to the smiling Qing Mu. See not long good. Dao called to hit the smiling Qing Mu when he. Elder sister studies Qing Mu, see not long good. Clear and open, there are a few differences, lonely and humble, less upper body Qing Mu next year too. Many changes have been made, compared to the memories in the picture, and Qing Mu found him. Qing Mu looked. Raise your hand. Laugh this Qing Mu. Even if you don't eat, you can still cherish. Eat very well. Clear proof. Can I order one? Dao smile he asked the opposite side. With the tall growth, naturally go up to Ray's camp. With a good food partner courtyard research read Gorilla Lord. With the tall growth I arrived, the car block on the road. The first one to get the tall growth is the most, compared to the memories in the picture, and the chess seal is sent. Measure hit one thin boy. Hear the crowd. Dao is surprised. Suddenly this dyed forest? With the tall growth how you? Hey, just how you, Gucci? Surface painting in the memory of the floating, from not the sea brain people. See again here. Go to suddenly meet the chess seal. Think well not all how many people, but Gu Xinju's body is a collection of all of these people. He is a chess seal waiting for the right moment. The eyes in front of the bright one are all people. The chess seal at the quarter one is to see. Come and go from afar. See only from the chessboard. Go and look around. Once the shouts are heard, there will be many people far away. The girl in the room. He doesn't think much of me, but Gucci, I'm the only one who can come back and forth. Ibai, when the time comes, you can't do anything to me. Ibai, sister will learn. Dodge is too good for Long Xia. What's up with you, Ranlin? He was waiting for the right time to come back and forth. At this time, he was thinking that there was no one around. On the first day of a new year, it was already time to leave Qi Lin. Ranlin's record of the Academy's research, Soul Tiger, has already arrived at the scene. looking back at the crowd. Oh, I forgot, didn't I? You kids haven't finished your homework yet. Heh. Come to pass on the side one. Follow the sound of the voice one is familiar with one another. When the time comes, send off the beautiful mooching. Let the people who are discussing and laughing together be present. Let's go to the meeting in reality. She can say that, but her words are not good. Mu dao ji. When the road opens up, this person is waiting for long xia. Want also me that. Eat well, don't be special. Nourish the chi spirit's purity is high by the body's people. It's said that according to the monster domain's big strength is more solid. Eat also me, sister study. Meet beast domain's leader wants me to eat, sister study. Head not heavy, Zheng, Qing Mu. Eat well, bring us to wait for the right time. You look at the meeting will be empty, I will be. Dao Qing Mu is not looking for a full heart of Xiaoyang. Finish the work. Also want to return on the first day of the new year. Even though we see that there will be empty later on, sister study. Come and tell us about him. The food is sumptuous and plentiful. Don't specially come to the table to eat. Jiao One's field exercise is in the gathering of friends and friends of the class 3 battle with Qing Mu. The sky is red, the eyes of the dazzling lights on the field exercise. The field holds before all the people name Ji Changxing. Jia can do Sheng Shi Quan. The line before the completion of the delivery person studies is to walk, or the academy's research staff is to enter a few. This is to come to the festival's Xiao Jiao Mini. Prepare the accurate premise. The hot will be late to finish the school's Fu Shui Chengxing. Change the germination of hair has already been the history calendar. The next movement of the butterfly is only this chest seal in. Next time this, but how can there be no school's Fu Shui Chengxing? Wish to leave the mother's father to complete, for the school's Fu Shui Chengxing into her past. Fu Zhu sent to the city's people to wait for the fruit kai, the heart of Xiaoyang period this. We'll be late to finish the school's good beauty one. Excessively stay to pull our friend away from her. Next time this, but send off friends have not updated. Receive the person's wife have not. Kai Liren one body, Gu Qing, Mu Tian this school is finished. The line between the time of the beginning of the most. Ji finished to receive also Qing Mu school's Fu Shui Changxing body. At the same time, the body of the limit body broke suddenly not strong change for the chest seal in. Year after year, and I turns. When he used to train, he used the door special domain area 1 to draw out the foundation in the changing courtyard research red scarlet. Through the training of the strong training of the self, from the beginning to open also him, the promotion of the continuation of the fit body, he and the Shi Jing long mo evil company, inside the day to receive. Go down to receive the inheritance and be able to learn some skills and knowledge of this, between the time of the line, 1 every time to go back again. To use can be more his one other's memories, to remember him to read, to use him, but not the technique some this. Really can learn chess seal very well, this pair. Skillful fighting skills he promoted, pointing to the direction of the training he began to open. The strong foundation guard came to transfer back to the courtyard research red scarlet in the day to continue after. Difficult, more difficult also. The taste is dry for the more acceptance of the present him than the research progress of the day one is like 100 years. Wei's inner line between the time of the line, 1 every time to feel him under the comparison. Live patiently can complete him, but dry for a long time like this. In the training of the degree of the strong, to enter the new heavy chest seal. The back courtyard research red scarlet in the day, to return. Up and down the sky rushed the diameter of the car, floating magnetic suspension. The door oil, Stepmeng Wei said. Not to eat can go back. Some eat for many years this good. Make an appointment for supper. Stay up all night. The food of the cream camp is unpalatable. I don't think I can't. Research night, stay up all night to go back just like this. The master is good. Prepare to do not give. The taste of the cream camp a few years before the research foundation's secret. In a hiding and you don't want, Sister Wei. Collapse some of the heart. The good won't eat after 100 years to understand the meaning. Her acceptance of calmness can be difficult. Any opposite. Look at the feeling. Think about it. The cream camps 100 years to eat, after 100 years to think about it, angry breath, sigh, can't bear to follow, doubt, eyes stare as Wei Wei. The tool craftsman is you, don't flatter me. How smart is that? You have to look like a bag brain, your understanding is not in me. The newcomer of the arcane skill brings me to the meeting of the line, one every time to you, the beginning of opening the box blind from the beginning. The matter is indeed seemingly so, although say this don't. Dao smiling Wei Wei. The tool craftsman is the most powerful you, huh? Over the abandonment of the line, one every time from you. The pattern one is also you. I can't stop. Wei Wei turned to look at him, finished speaking. Shake will not the meeting of the meeting, also we him. Shake will not be me. Put down will also be him. Put down will also be me. 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 Put down will also be my line one every time. He shook his head and asked the other side. Living through. Think about yourself. Go back to rest and choose a good time between the lines here. Go back to think about it privately. Dao inquired suddenly. Heard that Wei Wei's car is driving in the... Dao should return to laughing chest seal. Do things seriously and even more have to return me. But give up or not from... Can't give up a bit. Don't tell the back of the work. This and the center is also him. The color familiar crossing the outside window, looking in. At 10 o'clock, when the evening arrived, this car of research red scarlet returned to sit on the chest seal. Help him, he needs to complete the work he has not, set an agreement between those he forgot, or not Ran Lin reminded him to specially return his interval. Let's count the number of meals. When we meet again, it is as if we will go after him, and we will get rid of him. Research Institute Research Soul Tiger entered Jia Hui Ranlin. Team Battle Domain Leader Ruo Bo returned to Jia Hui Ranha. The first line of invading the territory of the first line of defense was to go up against the resistance, and the first line of battle was to go up against the families of the territory of the first line of defense. After entering and finishing their work, they would meet Yu Yan and his 3 brothers. Research and therapy in the hospital to meet Guokai. Select knowing little Yang to join the army. Those who have not yet arrived will have their own people behind them. After dinner one, the most important gathering place is Luo Jiao Bei. Between the lines of the crowd, this is Luo Jiao Bei. The dining hall of Luo Jiao Bei is Luo Jiao Bei. Go to dinner again late, finish eating to decide the chest seal. The next person to stay behind and wait for Qilin. By the time dinner was late, it was too late to leave. Fu Zhu sent Du Yi people to the dyed forest. Later on Xiangji, he solved the problem of Zai Zai, but he could not solve the problem of induction. Dyed forest, the first class of the dyed forest, let the real parting come suddenly. Don't tell people to wait for Qing Mu, and is the last. I wish him blessings before my eyes are filled with smiles. I bid him farewell before my eyes. Having made up his mind, he nodded in agreement. However, he was reluctant to show his face. Later on, he would disappear. He knew that he would have to spend a long time in the empty sky. Witness 1 Wei Wei, the assistant of the research and study of magic power, continues the research and study of red scarlet and scarlet in the rear courtyard. The research and study of the play and play imitate the void. It was given by Sheng Fu Bai, who was responsible for the resignation of his post. Wei Wei went up and returned to Fushui City, star to return this time to him. Regret not to live in vain. Established military brightly waits and waits. The strength actually rises to raise the inner courtyard research red scarlet. When he pays attention to the time of the special room, the city star of the government school to resign and calculate the beating. Understanding the meaning of righteousness. How can there be anyone who has not passed through the Academy City Star to continue his succession? Living Life School begins to open a new perspective on right and wrong and go back. Going back and forth between the prefectural city and the Star Palace. The Academy researcher Hong Jiokai Li decided that he should be in charge of this matter. Quang Jin's loss of control of the situation will not be seen again. His body and palm control are practiced well enough to be able to pass through the chest seal, drawing from the surface to make up for the brain. In the heart of the cold, evil formation, his strength can control the flesh and muscles of the palm to obtain the original when the time comes to listen to this. Like the mud rubber pinching the heel. What the heart can do as it pleases, the shape of the shit, what Shulala is in the discovery of him. The member who speaks to examine the evidence of the number 1 Academy research Red Scarlet uses. Muscle sphincter as an example, the position of the control palm and the living spirit is also obscure, that is even. The degree of 100% is close to reaching the control of the flesh and muscles of the palm from his own release to return to the chest seal, the promotion of the degree of compatibility of the stone crystal rune dragon devil with him. The dragon devil is very powerful and can be endowed with this, the real power in exchange for Shang-Chi's use. 001 plus strength to fight, 001, Shang-Chi. After the anger wildly opens, it is simple to say. Moving and rushing things cut into one. The front, eyes torn apart. Want to fiercely appear in the middle of the brain. Weak decline of the large scale of the manipulation of the body. Red and full change in the inner space. Short in the skin, he must connect. The amount of energy entering the body can be special group 1. Will surge out of the stone crystal rune dragon devil. The power of the back can be opened. Anger wild, named to take him, the power can be this. The nature of the training should be suitable for the beginning of the chest seal day, to come down and receive, and then into the completion of the modification rune. Chapter 206. After the graduation party, everyone had a brand new life trajectory. Mu Qing carried her luggage and embarked on the path to the front lines. Lin Ran joined the Tiger Soul Institute and began to research spells. Wang Jinsheng came to the Scarlet Institute and began the research project to crack flesh sacrifice. Feng Qi was also on the path to becoming stronger. But they all had a common goal in their hearts, to fight for the rise of mankind. New World, Eastern Region, Northern Region. North of Winter City, Supply Area. It snowed all year round, and everything was covered under thick snow. But there was a small supply city here. Although it was called a supply area, every supply area was the front line against the domain invasion. It was also the base of the major domain battle groups. All the facilities in the city were built to serve the domain battle groups, and a large number of high-tech weapons were equipped inside and outside the city. In the heavy snow, a transport plane slowly landed on the runway under the signal light. A moment later, Mu Qing, who was carrying an oversized bag, pushed her luggage to the supply city. She looked down at the map of the New World in her hand and walked straight to the north of the supply area. The New World was what people called the world after the cataclysm. It was divided into 4 regions: East, South, West, North, and Central. The Eastern region was divided into 6 cities. They were Silver River City in the west, Star City in the south, Future City in the center, Victory City in the east, Old City in the northeast, and finally Winter City in the north. Each city had its own development characteristics. Because they were divided by the domain, each city was independent of each other, more like an ally before the cataclysm. But the relationship between each other was very close. Every time another city was attacked by a domain, the other cities would send forces to support them. For example, when Star City supported Future City, the memorial park of the Star City Volunteer Army soldiers was still maintained in Future City. The highest authority of each city was the responsibility of a council formed by representatives of the major research institutes, the military, and other highest institutions. At the same time, the 6 cities in the eastern region of the New World also formed a joint research institute and joint military department, as well as the Eastern Region Supreme Council to interface with the city alliances in other regions of the New World. The seemingly scattered human forces were actually very close. Everyone understood the principle of dying when the lips and teeth were cold. In addition to the mutual support over the years, the relationship between the major cities had become even closer. The feeling of ordinary people traveling to another city was no different from traveling across provinces before the cataclysm. At the same time, all the major cities shared their databases and connected their networks. The highest council of each major city also had a clear rule that all attempts to destroy the relationship between the major cities would be severely punished. A moment later, Mu Qing arrived at the destination with her luggage. This was a tall building that was shaped like a fist. In the middle of the building, there was a metal plaque that read Battle Group Recruitment Office. Dusting off the snow on her body, Mu Qing walked into the building with a backpack that was bigger than her. The building hall was very spacious. Inside were domain warriors wearing formatted equipment. Some of the warriors' armors were still stained with the blood of domain creatures and hadn't been cleaned in time. The recruitment hall was the core building of the city. It had two main functions. Their first purpose was to recruit new soldiers. There were two ways for graduates to join a domain battle group. The first way was to be invited by the domain battle group. The second way was to come to the recruitment hall to fill out a form and wait for the domain battle group that was lacking people to choose from. Mu Qing chose the second method. She had always kept a low profile in Star City University. Other than her classmates, no one knew about her abilities. Thus, before she graduated, no domain battle group had extended an olive branch to her. The second purpose of the recruitment hall was for the domain battle group to accept missions. When the major research institutes needed domain materials or missions, they would send them to the recruitment hall's management office. After registration, the missions would be displayed on the big screen in the center of the hall. The corresponding rewards for the missions would also be listed. She scanned the situation in the hall. Then, she came to the recruitment registration office. She took a form and pen from the staff and started to fill in her details. After filling in the form and handing it in, she carried her backpack to a seat in the hall and put it down. She opened the backpack. There were various snacks and compressed energy ointment inside. This food was given to her by Yang Xiaoxin and the others as a parting gift before she left. They were afraid that she wouldn't have enough to eat outside. Looking at the food in the backpack, Mu Qing smiled. She grabbed a bag of snacks and started to eat. Half an hour later, when she picked up the backpack again, the food was already 1/3 gone. Feeling the lightness on her shoulders, she couldn't help but have a look of worry on her face. If she still couldn't find a domain battle group to adopt her after eating all this food, she would have nothing to eat for the rest of her life. Then, she came to the screen in the recruitment hall and began to wait for her assignment. After a few hours of waiting, her name finally appeared on the screen. Mu Qing, Star City University Combat Department graduate, assignment, Snow Wolf Domain Battle Group. Please report to the Snow Wolf Battle Group Recruitment Office. Contact 1852. Seeing that she had a place to belong, she couldn't help but wave her fist happily. Then, she took out her phone and dialed the number on it. When the call went through, she spoke first politely. "Hello, I'm Mu Qing." "Oh, Mu Qing, right? Come report to my Snow Wolf Battle Group. The location is 156 North Main Street in the supply area." "Okay, I'm coming." After hanging up the phone, she turned and walked out of the recruitment hall. Then, she took out a map and walked towards North Main Street. An hour later, she arrived at North Main Street. This was a manor-style building complex. The door of each manor was filled with the house number and the domain battle group that it belonged to. This area was also the base of the domain battle group that was stationed here. After searching for a while, she came to the manor with the words Snow Wolf Battle Group, C-Rank Battle Group. At this time, at the entrance of the manor, a woman wearing a mink sweater was already waiting. Seeing her arrival, a sweet smile instantly appeared on the woman's face. "Mu Qing? That's me. Hello, senior." Mu Qing immediately nodded respectfully. "Come in first. The leader is also here today. When the time comes, you can introduce your abilities in detail and then arrange your role in the team." Following the woman into the manor, Mu Qing looked around curiously. The manor was full of green plants, but they were all covered by snow. Continuing to walk in, there was a river pond. At this time, the river water had already frozen. Glancing ahead, she could see individual buildings that belonged to the battle group members. In front of each building, there were military vehicles painted with snow wolf patterns parked. Along the way, the woman also introduced the origin of the Snow Wolf Battle Group. This battle group was first formed by the graduates of Class 8 of the 48th Combat Class of the Chilly Winter Academy. In the field combat training before graduation, they worked together to kill a snow wolf and brought it back to the academy. After graduation, they formed a battle group together and named the first domain creature Snow Wolf as the name of the domain battle group. Until today, the Snow Wolf domain battle group had already changed 8 commanders. Not to mention the outstanding battle achievements, the evaluation of the C rank battle group was also forged by the blood of the members. Following the woman to the back of the manor, a plaque hung on the building in front of it, Snow Wolf Conference Hall. Shaking off the snow on her body, she followed the woman and pushed open the thick door to enter the building. The air suddenly became warm, orange lights were lit inside, and flames were burning in the fireplace. On the sofa in the hall, smoke lingered, and dozens of people sat together discussing something. "Commander, the newcomer is here. Receive the guest." At this moment, the woman walking in front of her shouted loudly. Hearing the shout, the noisy hall came to an abrupt end. Then, a burly man with a scar on the left side of his face stood up and looked straight at Mu Qing. Then, a smile appeared on his face. "Come and sit. Let's introduce ourselves first." Mu Qing wasn't timid when she heard this. She calmly went to the sofa, put down her luggage, and sat down. Looking at everyone's gaze, Mu Qing began to introduce herself. "My name is Mu Qing. I graduated from Combat Class 3 of Star City University. I'm honored to join the Snow Wolf Battle Group." Before she could finish her introduction, she was interrupted by the commander. "It's too formal. Since you've joined our battle group, you're family. Just get to the point. Don't be shy. Do whatever you want." "Yes, we're family from now on. Don't be shy." Everyone cheered. Looking at everyone's smiling faces, Mu Qing felt less reserved. She smiled and frankly told them about her intention to join the battle group. After listening to her explanation, everyone also began to introduce themselves. "My name is Tuoyin. I'm the current commander of the Snow Wolf Battle Group. The one who received you just now was the secretary of our battle group, Yi Qian. She's in charge of recruiting new members and accepting missions." The members who were introduced would all smile and nod at Mu Qing greeting. "Some of the members are outside now. When they come back, I'll introduce them to you." After that, Tuoyin smiled and looked at Mu Qing. "Next, tell me about your ability. I'll arrange a position for you in the team." Faced with the question, Mu Qing didn't hide anything and immediately said, "My ability is close combat. I have extremely strong strength and physical defense. The injuries on my body will automatically heal in a short period of time. I hope to be in the front line of the team's main force." Hearing Mu Qing say that she had extremely strong close combat abilities and wanted to be in the main force, everyone couldn't help but shake their heads. The commander, Tuan, even said, "Mu Qing, you just graduated and don't have much combat ability. You should be in charge of the logistics of the team." "Logistics? What for?" Mu Qing asked curiously. "When the team is exploring the field, you'll be in charge of carrying food or protecting the exploration resources and related equipment." Realizing that she was being looked down upon, she wasn't surprised. However, she didn't have the intention to pretend to be weak. She joined the battle group to train herself, not to keep a low profile. Thinking of this, she stood up and squatted in front of the coffee table. She looked at the members of the Snow Wolf battle group and said solemnly, "Arm wrestling? Haha, I like this newbie. She's so interesting. She just arrived, and she's already challenging us. She's really a newborn calf that isn't afraid of the tiger." Regarding Mu Qing's strength, everyone had a rough idea. The strong graduates of the academy had already been selected by the top battle groups. How strong could a newbie who needed to register herself be? Realizing that the newly graduated Mu Qing was arrogant, the commander, Tuan, immediately turned to look at the tall and burly man sitting beside him and said, "Wild Bull, welcome our newbie. Don't let Xiaolong go. I don't want to bully the newbie." The man called Wild Bull immediately shook his head. "If I tell you to go, then go." Wild Bull stood up reluctantly and squatted in front of the coffee table. He held Mu Qing's right hand. The difference in their physiques was extremely obvious. They weren't even on the same level. You can use your strength. Wild Bull looked at Mu Qing and said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Mu Qing didn't hesitate. She just gently pressed to the left. Wild Bull's eyes widened. Realizing that Mu Qing's strength was extraordinary, he immediately held his breath and began to use his strength. But he soon realized that something was wrong. No matter how much strength he used, he couldn't move Mu Qing's wrist at all. In the wrestling, Mu Qing seemed to be at ease, but Wild Bull's forehead was covered in sweat. Cracks began to appear on the coffee table that was pressed against their elbows. Wild Bull, who was unwilling to give up, let out a roar and used all his strength. Mu Qing also chose to use her strength at this time. She suddenly pushed the back of Wild Bull's hand onto the coffee table. Bang! The coffee table collapsed under the huge force. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened. Wild Bull was the #1 warrior in the front line of the main force of the Snow Wolf battle group. He was responsible for protection, receiving injuries, and breaking out of an encirclement. He was definitely the strongest in the team, but now he was easily crushed by a freshman. Touching his sore right arm, Wild Bull's face was full of shock. He also realized that Mu Qing wasn't bragging when she said that she was extremely strong. She really was that strong. At this time, Mu Qing turned to look at the commander, Tuyen. Commander, I can use other methods to prove that I have the ability to be the front line of the main force. Good, prove it to me. At this time, Tuyen was very excited. He also realized that the Snow Wolf battle group had picked up a treasure. Can we have a real battle? In the face of Mu Qing's inquiry, Tuyen immediately nodded. Okay, let's go outside. Then, everyone hurried out of the conference hall and came to an open space outside. It was snowing heavily outside, but everyone seemed to be a little excited. Wild Bull, one more time, a real battle. Okay, Wild Bull didn't refuse this time. He immediately nodded and stood in the center of the open space. At this time, Mu Qing also came to the center of the open space. At this time, Wild Bull took the initiative to attack. He took 2 steps forward and threw a punch at Mu Qing. The surface of his fist was glowing red. Before the snowflakes could get close, they were already melted by the high temperature emitted by his fist. Bang! Mu Qing didn't retreat. She raised her left hand and caught the punch. Although it was a real battle, Mu Qing still had her own worries. She still couldn't control her strength freely. She was afraid that she might use too much force. Her opponent was a future comrade, not an enemy, so she chose to defend. After withdrawing his right hand, Wild Bull attacked again. This time it was a side kick. The red flame on the surface of Wild Bull's body rose, and the surrounding snow was also melted by the hot force. In the face of the attack, Mu Qing raised her hand and easily blocked it. Then, she gently pushed, and Wild Bull was directly sent flying. Damn, this newcomer is too strong, someone in the audience exclaimed. Obviously, they were shocked by Mu Qing's strength. The battle continued. Wild Bull was unwilling to give up. After he landed on the ground, the flames on the surface of his body became more condensed. He looked at Mu Qing and said, I'm going to attack with all my strength. Be careful. Mu Qing heard this and immediately nodded. Then, Wild Bull launched a new round of fierce attacks. But no matter how he attacked, even if he used his trump card, he couldn't break through Mu Qing's defense. Mu Qing easily resolved it in a way that looked very simple. The difference between the two was obvious at a glance. After a round of attacks, Wild Bull panted and waved his hand. Boss, I'm not her opponent. I'm willing to be the second main force and give the main meat shield position to her. Hearing Wild Bull's answer, the team leader, Tuyen, who was already shocked to the extreme, immediately nodded. Okay. It was like this in a domain battle group. The weak stepped down and the strong stepped up. After all, a domain battle group was not a Vanity Fair. Every position was very important. This would affect the efficiency of the entire team and also directly related to the lives of all the team members. All the core positions of the main force were taken by the capable. Since Mu Qing had this strength, he immediately decided to let Mu Qing be the main meat shield of the team. Thinking of this, Tu Aoyan looked at Mu Qing and said, Mu Qing, You will be the first main force of our team. But before that, you have to learn from Wild Bull for a period of time. You have to understand what a main meat shield should do. Then, I can rest assured that you will take over Wild Bull's position. After that, he turned to look at Wild Bull. Wild Bull, you are responsible for leading Mu Qing. When Mu Qing is familiar with the team, she will step down and become the second main force. Lion will step down and become the third main force after rearranging the battle group. A smile appeared on Tua Yan's face. Brothers, let's hold a banquet to welcome newcomers. Let's have fun tonight. Hearing this, everyone cheered. At this time, Mu Qing used her strength to win everyone's respect. In the heavy snow, Mu Qing turned to look in the direction of Star City University, and a smile appeared on her face. Wait for my good news.